The Mets are back in New York after a successful road trip. Back to blue skies after all the rain. After all, it's been a roller coaster season for the Mets this year, but things are on the uptick right now. Now it's just a matter of getting the field in playing shape. Grounds crew hard at work after all the rain the last couple of days, drying out the field, and they've got things in tip-top condition. At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Atlanta Braves in a doubleheader. Mets baseball is presented in HD by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. I'm Gary Cohen. Ron Darling joins me in just a moment as the Mets get set to play a makeup doubleheader against the Atlanta Braves. The two games rescheduled from a week and a half ago when Hurricane Irene knocked out a couple of weekend games. The Mets and Braves are going in different directions. Right now, the Mets are playing well, and the Braves, who appeared to have a postseason berth all locked up, all of a sudden things are not going quite so well for Freddie Gonzalez's team. They've lost 5 of 6, and their lead in the wild card race is down to 6.5 against St. Louis. And after they leave here, they'll be going to St. Louis for a weekend series.
You think a team that would be 22 games over 500 would not have a lot of issues, but they have coming down the stretch. They've had a couple starting pitchers that have gone out. Their bullpen, of course, has been great all season long. They have a couple of players. Jason Hayward has not had the season he had after his rookie season, and Brian McCann, after coming back from injury, has not been the same player. They're going to get those guys back and going if they're going to make sure they stay in front of the Cardinals.
And Freddie Gonzalez shaking up his batting order today, batting Chipper Jones second for the first time in 15 years. And the Braves today will be facing Chris Schwinden, who makes his first major league start for the Mets. This is quite a story that Schwinden is even in the major leagues.
No, it's almost being rewarded. He started out in Binghamton. He was promoted to Buffalo. His season was an 8-8 kind of season, but he was outstanding. Low ERA, did a great job for that Buffalo team. The reward is a start here in the major leagues. And he's going up against Mike Minor, who's pitched a lot better, a #1 pick out of Vanderbilt for the Atlanta Braves. He's won his last 4 starts, as he seems like he's more comfortable in a big league uniform.
Now with Tommy Hanson and Jair Jurgens hurt, Minor has taken on added importance in that Braves rotation. It's the Mets and Braves, first of 2 coming up from Citi Field. All the action coming your way today right here on SNY. to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By Citi. By Pepsi Max. By freescore.com. 3 credit scores, 1 place. Get your scores today at freescore.com. And by Lowe's. Follow the Mets with the MLB.com @Bat11 app for your iPhone, iPad, Android, or BlackBerry. Check in using @Bat at Citi Field to receive special offers. Text @Bat to 31826 or visit Mets.com for details. Here's your Cadillac around the majors. Last night, Ross glowed with the hit in the bottom of the 9th inning. The lift of the Phillies over the Braves 3-2 to sweep that series. Phillies now 10.5 up on Atlanta. Today, Jason Worth a 2-run homer. The Nats and the Dodgers tied 4-4 as they go to the 9th. Derek Jeter with a couple of RBIs as the Yankees and Orioles moved their road show to Baltimore. They are tied 4-4 in the 9th inning. Here at Citi Field, Chris Schwinden from Visalia, California, gets set to make his Major League debut on the mound in the big city. Doubleheader action. First pitch coming right up. One of the doubleheader, and there's Chipper in the number 2 hole. Last time he hit second was 1996. Wow. When he made 4 starts in the number 2 spot for Bobby Cox, and now 15 years later, Freddie Gonzalez slides him into the 2 hole. And really the reason is that the Braves just have not been scoring a whole lot. The Braves hit a lot of home runs. They're 3rd in the league in home runs, but the Mets have scored far more runs this year than the Braves have.
Well, what a day for Chris Schwinden. His first start in the major leagues. You see his numbers there, less hits than innings pitched, good number of strikeouts, 134, and he does not in his entire minor league career walk a lot of people. Visalia, California, went to Fresno Pacific College.
All right, quick quiz. Yes. Fresno Pacific nickname?
I don't know. What?
The Sunbirds.
Fresno Sunbirds. Wow.
Chris Schwinden is the first ever Fresno Pacific product to make it to the majors.
Well, you see the Lexus Mets defense, Bay, Pagan, and Duda in the outfield. They've been the fixtures. You see the big change in the infield. Tejada starting at shortstop in this first game. Reyes will start in the second. Turner, Evans, and Paulino is doing the catching against the left-handed starting pitcher for the Braves, Mike Minor.
Ronnie, give me a feel. What's going through Chris Schwinden's mind and stomach right now?
Well, it's interesting. Listening to him speak, he said, you know what? I never expected to ever make it to Double-A. I never expected to make it to Triple-A, and certainly never thought he was going to be in a big league uniform. So right now, he's as nervous as he's ever been. He probably can't get even a little bit of saliva to use on his hands to get a better grip on the baseball, and he's hoping beyond hope that first pitch is a strike. After that, everything will be fine.
Schwinden began his year in Double-A this year. He got promoted to Triple-A the first week of the season because they had an opening in their rotation. He made one nice start for them, and then Boof Bonser blew out his elbow, and Schwinden just stayed. And he went on a great run early in the season for Buffalo and didn't pitch all that well the second half of the year. And very frankly, he's kind of reached his innings plateau for the year, and this might be the only start that he makes.
That's the thing about the minor leagues. You never know what kind of events will transpire to push you forward, and those things happen for Chris.
Michael Bourne leads off for the Braves. Bourne hitting a .298, and Schwinden's first big league pitch is in for a strike. So there you go. He got that out of the way.
There we go.
Bourne second in the National League in base hits with 170 and trying to win another stolen base title. It would be his third in a row. And the changeup from Schwinden misses, a ball and a strike. Well, at least he's not facing Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, and Mike Schmidt, his first three hitters in the big leagues. Lined and caught on a hop by Evans, and Schwinden has his first big league out. Nick continues to look very smooth around first base.
He has, he doesn't cover a lot of area, but in the game that you want, the ball at him, he's going to make the play. He has soft hands. You cannot teach that. And that short trap, and we've seen scooping the baseball. It's probably the best of all the Mets first basemen. Now that Ike's down.
So here's Chipper Jones in an unusual spot, hitting second in the order. He's been swinging the bat well. He's at .282 for the year. 15 home runs this season, 451 for his Hall of Fame someday major league career.
Well, you were mentioning those first three hitters that I had to face. Certainly Chipper Jones is up on that kind of level. And what I mean by that is a guy named Schwinden, a kid like Schwinden, when he's in college, they're watching the Braves in the playoffs every year. He's watching a guy like Jones.
Playoffs? He's probably been watching Chipper since he was in grade school.
That's right.
2-2 to Chipper Jones, who has 47 home runs against the Mets in his career and 148 RBIs in 226 career games against New York. Now the 2-2, and it's lined into left center, and Chipper's got himself a base hit. Bay comes over to cut it off, and Chipper's going to try for two. The throw coming in from Bay, and he's safe. Well, at least safe as far as getting into second base. I'm not sure about his general health as Chipper tries to peel himself out of the dirt.
Well, it's interesting. Schwinden hasn't thrown anything but fastballs so far in cutters, and Chipper took advantage of that deep in left field. And watch how he slides. He slides to the outside of the bag with his left foot that keeps him away from the tag from Turner. Right foot, sorry. He gets right on the outside part of that bag. Although he looked like he ran a marathon after he was trying to get up.
Well, you never know with Chipper. He has so many leg woes that have plagued him over the last few years as Brian McCann fouls one back. And the major knee surgery after hurting that knee last year. And he's had quad problems and oblique problems and hip problems. Doesn't seem as though a week goes by where Chipper doesn't have to take himself out of a game, but he keeps on coming back. And a good curveball by Schwinden to get ahead on McCann, 0-2.
Well, McCann was on his way, a little bit like Jose Reyes, to one of the most outstanding seasons he's ever had in the major leagues. He got hurt, he hurt the oblique, and he has not been the same since.
Hitting .280 on the year, 23 home runs. Schwinden ahead 0-2. And another curveball misses low, ball and two strikes. Schwinden struck out 134 batters this year in 146 innings. He had a year this year very much like the year Dylan G had last year in Triple-A.
a guy who does not have overpowering stuff but struck out a lot of hitters in the minor leagues. And, you know, it's been inevitable since Schwinden came up the other day that people have compared him to Dylan G. And in a certain respect, that might be true, but their style of pitching is very different.
Absolutely. Schwinden's a guy that relies on a cutter, an overhand curveball, a little bit of a changeup. His changeup's not as good as Dylan G., but his breaking ball is better.
Off the corner with a fastball, 3-2.
That's a good pitch there.
Bruce Dreckman is the home plate umpire today. And there you see the particulars on Schwinden. Visalia, the Mets once had a farm team in Visalia in the Cal League, about 45 minutes from Fresno, where he went to college. And the curveball on 3-2 misses, and McCann's on with a walk. So the Braves have two men on with Dan Uggla coming up. You know, Fresno's been awfully good to the Mets over the years as far as pitchers. You had Bobby Jones from Fresno, Dick Selma from Fresno, and who was that other guy?
I think the franchise was from
Seaver.
Fresno. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
He's from Fresno, the raisin capital of the world. So we'll see where Schwinden fits into that Fresnonian pantheon as he takes on Dan Uggla. Ugla's just been raging hot now for, well, it's been better than 2 months. He had the 33-game hitting streak. He just had another 10-game hitting streak come to an end yesterday after a miserable start to the year. If you go back to the 28th of June, that's 61 games now, he's hitting .316 with a .398 on base percentage and a .644 slugging percentage in about 10 weeks of play. So it's just been a complete and utter turnaround for Uggla.
It tells you something, Gary, how mentally tough he is. And the reason I say that is that we've seen our own left fielder Jason Bay struggle all season long, and Uggla was certainly on his way to a career worst year, and he pulled himself out of it. And I don't know how he did it, but he, like you said, red hot now.
The only player I can remember having this kind of turnaround, and maybe it wasn't quite so stark, was Carlos Delgado, his last full year with the Mets. First half of the year looked like he was done, and then in late June it turned it around and had a great second half.
Is that the year he had 9 RBI in Yankee Stadium, and after that it was the old Uggla. I mean the old Delgado, sorry.
Freddie Freeman waiting on deck. Well, Schwinden for the second straight hitter gets ahead, couldn't put McCann away. Now he's 1-2 on Uggla with 2 on. And it's hit hard. David Wright with a beautiful stop. Gets the out at second. Turner's relay not in time. But David Wright saves Chris Schwinden with an outstanding stop to get the second out of the inning.
You know, I got to see you guys on this last road trip, and he made a couple of errors, but David to his left had some fine plays, and this is just another one. That ball scorched. A lot of topspin on that baseball, almost spins him around and has the wherewithal to still get an out. That throw right there from Turner, he should have held on to the baseball.
So now runners at first and third with 2 out. Here's Freddie Freeman, who sat out a couple of games because he's been suffering with a bit of a hip and quad problem. Having himself an outstanding rookie season. And Polinos knocks one out of the dirt, 1-0. I mean, Freeman in any other year would be a prime candidate for Rookie of the Year honors. 292, 18 homers, 65 RBIs. He's not even the top rookie on his own team. Craig Kimbrell would appear to be the odds-on choice to win Rookie of the Year. Although I'll tell you what, the way Vance Worley's going,
that's right.
It's hard to believe he won't get some votes.
11-1 now, but Kimbrell is having an historic season, the greatest season from a closer, a rookie closer since, well, probably last year, with Tali Feliz.
Martin Prado waiting on deck. Hit deep toward the gap in left center, but chasing back as Pagani won't get there. It's off the wall on the fly. Chipper's in to score. Uggla running through a stop sign. He's heading home, and Polino can't handle the throw. 2-run score. Freeman winds up at third, and it's 2-0 Atlanta. Now, Uggla just kept on running. That's would have had him, but Polino couldn't pick up that short hop throw.
Well, a lot of plays missed here by the Mets. One, a pitch right over the middle of the plate with a changeup from Schwinden. Freeman has unbelievable power as he hits this ball off the wall. Pagan now, as he retrieves this baseball, he will miss the cutoff man, and it will go to Turner, who makes the play in the short hop. A pretty good throw. I think an excellent throw there to Paulino, who should be able to handle that baseball. I go back to this all the time, and I know catching coaches think I'm crazy. Why catchers do not take off their masks when they have those kind of plays makes no sense to me. And I know the injury factor is part of it, but you see the baseball so much better, and those plays would not happen. You see the runners here. Third base, easily score. Ugla, who has a lot more speed than you think, stumbles a little as he's going around third base, and he would have been a dead duck. But here's the play I'm talking about. At home, if you take the mask off, it's a much easier play to make.
I said he ran through a stop sign. I was wrong. Brian Snitker was waving him, but he was waving him, see, from right behind third base with his left hand.
Well, I think he was waving him and then making sure he went to Freeman after that to make sure he got Freeman to third base.
No error on the play. It's a double, 2 RBIs, and Freeman takes third on the throw. Now it's 3-0 to Martin Prado. So Schwinden maybe a little shaken after giving up a couple of first inning runs. Prado hitting 6th in the order, hitting a .260 on the year. Yeah, that's a strike, 3-1. And Prado smacks one foul, and a full count. Jason Hayward's hitting 7th in the order. He's waiting on deck. Now Schwinden's 3-2, and Prado fouls it off. Chris Schwinden has done something today that no Met has ever done before. He's taken the field in a regular season game wearing number 63.
Oh.
No Met has ever
really
worn 63 in a regular season game before. Spring training? Sure.
He might be looking for a new number if this inning doesn't change up. That's pretty amazing.
Well, anybody who comes to the major leagues with 63, generally if they enjoy some success, they get another number. A lower number. Past the mound, Turner gets to it. The throw, not in time. Freeman comes in to score, and it's 3-0. Very close play at first base, but Prado beat it out despite the efforts of Turner.
What a play by Turner, almost all the way in center field, throws across his body and gets it there in the air. Nothing Evans could have done. He did the good stretch. He could have cheated off the base there. It looks like a bang-bang play to me.
Alan Porter, the first base umpire.
Well, he could have called him out.
So Prado has an infield hit, his 52nd RBI, and it's 3-0. Not Jason Hayward, and he pops one up in foul ground. Coming back Paulino, but he can't get there. Had to go through the on-deck circle and had to kind of tiptoe as he went, and did not get to the baseball. Remember, he's coming back from a broken toe.
Well, you're right about that call. He looked down and tried to avoid that bat there on the on-deck circle.
So the inning is prolonged. Hayward having himself a very disappointing sophomore year, hitting just .224, 13 home runs. And the curveball from Schwinden misses 1-1. 3 hits and a walk in the inning, and the Braves have scored 3 against the first-time starter. Do you think Hayward's a little further from the plate this year than he was last year?
I definitely think he's a little further from the plate, and I think one of the things that, as Gonzalez is on deck, one of the things that people always talked about with Hayward was that he was patient and he wouldn't swing at balls off the strike zone. I think that's worked almost to his disadvantage because he needs to be a little more aggressive.
Now the 1-2 and the curveball hit in the air to left field, and Bay will get back for this one. Side finally retired. The Braves get 3 off Chris Schwinden in the top of the first. The Mets come to bat in the bottom. 3-0 Atlanta. brought to you by Geico. Jose Reyes will play game 2. David Wright will probably get game 2 off, and Angel Pagan and Jason Bay perhaps as well, as the Mets have been through some long nights and some long games recently. And Terry Collins was talking before the game today about how the team is rather physically exhausted.
Well, Mike Minor, the left-hander from Vanderbilt, making the start. The other left-hander from Vanderbilt, David Price being the number one, of course, making his 20th start of his career. 7-4 in his career. 4th time he's faced the Mets. 3rd time this year.
Mets have banged him around pretty good. His ERA over 3 starts against New York, 6.60. Ruben Tejada batting leadoff, 2nd time this year, 3rd time in his career, hitting a .278 for the year. And he takes a fastball from Minor for a strike. Ruben, since being recalled on the 8th of August, a month ago today, is hitting .333. His on-base percentage over 400 over that span, so he has really settled in nicely in this last go-round. Yesterday, for the first time, excuse me, Ronnie, in a while, we saw him get a little big with his swing, hit a couple of fly balls to left field.
It's almost like he covered that first one to left field, and he said, you know what, I'm going to try that again. And that, of course, we've seen for Ruben does not work. Line drive ground balls, most of them up the middle and to the right side.
Working counts, fouling off pitches with 2 strikes, drawing walks. He's been doing all the little man things that he needs to do. But here he hits another fly ball out to Michael Bourne, and the Gold Glover puts it away for the first out. So Tejada retired. 1 away, and now Justin Turner. Turner riding a 7-game hitting streak, hitting .345 over the 7 games. And has his average back up to .262, and he is now 3rd in the National League hitting with runners in scoring position. He's been doing it all year, really, right from his recall. And it's been, in that respect, a rather remarkable season for Justin. I mean, his numbers overall do not make your eyes pop, but the tougher the situation, the better he's been.
I like that he's a hard-nosed player. He's a guy that, when you look at him, you know, we talk about 5'2" players. He's definitely not a 5'2" player. But you know what he does? He makes up for it with his toughness, with his ability to hit the ball the other way, drive in runs. Lucas Duda on deck has been pretty impressive. You know, it's interesting about Justin in spring training. He was the afterthought. He was the guy that, you know, there are 5 or 6 people that got a shot at that position. He was the one who did not. And it's ironic that he's the one that's stuck here in the big leagues.
Well, from an organizational standpoint, it made sense in spring training because he was the guy who had options, so they knew they could always go to him later. Whereas, you know, Brad Emus got the first call because he was the guy they would have lost if he hadn't gotten the job. So Emus started the year as the regular second baseman, and after a couple of weeks, they went to plan B. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Turner. There's one thing that Justin has got to figure out this year. It's how to take a little less contact around the bag at second. Between that and all the pitches he's hit by, he's really gotten banged up a lot this year.
Well, I'm reminded that Tommy Herr, early in his career, the fantastic second baseman for the Cardinals, who came over to the Mets later in his career, he was like Turner. He would get knocked for a loop almost every single time, and he learned how to use that base as a buffer and how to keep people away from his legs, and it changed his entire career. And the reason that happened, he sustained a knee injury. And when he came back, he said, I can't have another knee injury like this. So he started to use the bag in a certain way, come, you know, back and forth and through and jump and all the things that keep the players away from his legs.
Well, we saw Turner try and do that on that double play opportunity in the top of the first, using the bag as a shield as McCann came in so that he couldn't get a clean hit on him.
Well, I think also what people can tend to forget, Turner slides awfully hard into second base on double plays. So the other team knows that, and payback usually comes.
9th pitch of the at bat to Justin, and he hits it in the air to right center. Bourne gives way to Hayward, and there are 2 out.
Well, the Coors Light Atlanta defense behind Minor, Prado, Bourne, who's been a godsend in center field, Hayward in right, Jones, Gonzalez, Ugla, and Freeman, McCann behind the plate. Hayward, who's lost a lot of his playing time to Constanza. You know, I was talking about Turner. I was talking about him going in hard to second. That's as a good thing. I mean, a great thing. But the other team watches that, and they try to pay back a little bit.
Here's Lucas Duda, who drove in the only run of the game yesterday in Florida. Reyes singled to lead off the game. Duda doubled him in, and R.A. Dickey and company did the rest. It was the 6th time in Mets history that they won a 1-0 game in which the run was scored by the first batter of the game. In this case, Reyes. The previous time that it happened was back in '04. And I remember this one well. Kaz Matsui led off a game in Arizona with a home run off Randy Johnson, and the Mets won it 1-0. Now, what made that interesting is that when the game began in Arizona, the roof was open, and the ball carries there better when the roof is open. So Matsui hit the home run, and I think they got some thunderstorm threats as Duda gets a base hit. And after the first inning, they closed the roof. Ball didn't carry as well. Mets won the game, and Johnson was livid. And for all of the games that Randy pitched there, the rest of his Diamondbacks career, he insisted that the roof be closed.
The big unit became the big powder for a day, huh?
Well, it wasn't the only time in his career. So Duda has a 2-out hit, and now David Wright. David hitless in his last 11 at bats. And you see those numbers there against Atlanta? It's amazing. Over the last couple of years, David just has not hit against the Braves. The last 2 seasons, he's 10 for 90 against Atlanta. That's a 111 batting average. Now, early in his career, David was something of a Braves killer.
Well, the one thing that they do as a team, the Braves, it'd be interesting to see if left-hander Minor does this at a tender age. They pound him in. There we go. They just do not let him get extended. Every time that he's on a pitch on the outside part, they pound him in again. You got to give a lot of credit to not only their coaching staff, but also McCann, who's developed into a very fine catcher.
And McCann stops that one. 2 balls and a strike. Mike Minor, first-round pick by the Braves in '09, 7th overall pick out of Vanderbilt. Just 23 years old. He was on the fast track to the major leagues, making his debut last year. He's been on the shuttle this year between the big leagues and AAA. David takes one the other way, and that's a base hit. Duda will go to third as the ball sticks against that short fence, and Wright pulls in at second base with a soft double. So the Mets have second and third and 2 out. David's 22nd double of the year.
Well, this ball on the outside part and running, David to get just enough of that bat on the baseball and strong enough to just dump that over the head of Freeman. $10 for 90. You could use a few of those.
11 for 91.
There
now.
you go.
So after giving up 3 in the top of the inning, the Mets get Pagan to the plate as the tying run at the bottom of the inning. Angel at 266, 7 home runs. Look at the Coors Light freeze cam.
So alert our staff as we even do this in the first inning, Gary. Freeze cam right on that ball running on the outside part. Just gets it off the end of the bat. Fine pitch by Minor. Sometimes it ends up in a double.
Angel took an 0 for yesterday, but he has been swinging the bat well. See his numbers with runners in scoring position have gone up as the year has gone along. Duda at third and Wright at second with 2 down. It's trying to fight back after giving up a 3 spot in the top of the inning. Pagan leading active Mets with 53 runs batted in. 2 balls and a strike. Be a nice feat for somebody on this team to wind up with more RBIs than Carlos Beltran.
Yeah. Beltran 66.
That's what he had when he left.
Right.
Pagan's at 53 now. I don't think Beltran's Giants are going to make it.
Have hope, Gary. Come on.
7 games out now.
They've lost games every which way but loose, but they just cannot score enough.
Held in check by Aaron Harang last night. Allowed just 4 hits in 7 innings. You know, Aaron Harang's 13-5, by the way.
Randy Wells.
Yeah. Now Pagan with a 3-1 advantage. And he walks. So Minor unable to seal the deal here in the first inning, and the Mets have the bases loaded with 2 down. Roger McDowell will take a trip to the mound before Minor goes after Jason Bay.
There's Roger. When you walk out in this first inning, you never have more of a purpose as a pitching coach than these little gatherings as you're talking to your young pitcher, trying to reassure him that you can get out of this. All you have to do is make one good pitch, get an out, get back on the bench. But you got to make sure he believes it before you leave.
Well, the guy he's facing has all of a sudden shown some resurgence. Jason Bay has had extra base hits in 3 straight games, and the only time prior to this that he's done that this year was his first 3 games of the year back in April. So it's been a small sample, but Jason has hit a bunch of balls hard over this last week. Now in an RBI situation, and he takes the breaking ball for a strike. Jason 7 for 17 over the last 5 games. You see him creeping up on that Mets RBI list, trying to catch the specter of Beltran. 0-2 now to Jason.
Until last week, wasn't Murphy the leader in RBI?
He was. Now Minor ahead in the count, 0-2 with the bases loaded. And Bay takes the fastball off the plate. Guys like Mike Minor have taken on a much greater importance now for the Braves. Nick Evans on deck.
And Bay drives one deep left field. Back goes Prado looking up, and it's out of here! Jason Bay with a grand slam. His 2nd grand slam of the season, his 12th home run of the year, and the Mets go in front 4-3. And as each day goes by, this Bay resurgence looks a little more real. It's the Mets' 3rd grand slam of the year. They hit the first 2 in the same game in Detroit.
Well, it's interesting that Jason is swinging the bat like he did a few seasons ago when he was in a different uniform. Hanging curveball, doesn't miss it. That's what happened most of this season, that he has gotten those pitches, but he's missed them, and he did not miss one there.
So it's 4-3 New York, and now Nick Evans fouls it off. It's the first Mets grand slam here at Citi Field since Angel Pagan, August 1st of 2009. Remember, they went all of last year without a grand slam.
Clay Rapata, I think, for the Arizona team.
How do you remember that?
I don't know. The only reason I remember is because it was so long after that the Mets did not hit a grand slam.
Viva Rapata.
There we go.
Now the 0-2 to Evans, and he goes down on strikes, so the inning comes to an end. But a big 2-out rally for the Mets. Duda right with hits. Pagan draws a walk, and Jason Bay with his 4th career grand slam and his 2nd this year. An active first inning of baseball. Bay's slam puts the Mets up 4-3 after 1. but whatever it is, he wants something else.
Those are time consumers for moms. 15 minutes there, a little piece.
Well, after a 65-pitch first inning, we move to the second. So 18 innings of baseball scheduled, 65 pitches. That means we're on a pace for 1,170 pitches today.
7 runs in the first, 6 hits.
Well, Chris Schwinden has himself a lead after giving up that 3-run first inning. Let's see if he can settle in as he takes on Alex Gonzalez, who's hitting at .229 for the year. It'll be Gonzalez, then the pitcher Minor, and then Michael Bourne here in the second. Braves got a 2-run double from Freddie Freeman, a run-scoring infield hit from Martin Prado. It's interesting, isn't it? With the way Schwinden shakes that hand in the glove as he gets the grip. Popped up, and Nick Evans taking charge. 1 away.
It's almost like a guy who's tumbling the numbers of a safe, right? As he holds that baseball in his hand.
Well, I wonder whether it's that somebody at some point told him that to avoid tipping his pitches, he should do that same tumbling, thing every time.
Tumbling of the baseball. We've seen Dempster for Chicago kind of flip his glove. Just keep it going until you settle on a grip. Pretty cool.
Mike Minor, left-hand pitcher, but right-hand batter, takes a strike.
I'd always be afraid. Guy on third, 2 outs. I'm doing that, and the ball falls out of my glove.
Yeah. That's a balk.
Yep.
Schwinden with the 0-2. And Tejada right in front of that ground ball. Comes up for him, and that's the second out. So Schwinden retires the 8 and 9 hitters. 2 out and nobody on. And Michael Bourne will come to the plate. Well, the Braves had all sorts of problems in center field this year before they made the deal for Michael Bourne.
And I think other than his strikeouts, Gary, if he could cut down on those, Bourne would be one of your more complete defensive and offensive center fielders in the game.
Well, he wins Gold Gloves. He steals bases. His on-base percentage is perfectly adequate. Gets a lot of hits.
That is the pitch there, folks, that changed Schwinden. That little cutter inside the left-handers. It's a pitch that he relies on now to be effective.
Look at that hand moving. And the breaking ball for the second strike. We've got that good down break on that curveball.
It's right over the top, and it's got good late movement. Sort of looks like it's going to sit there for a while and then really starts to go downward.
Two and two to Bourne with Chipper Jones hoping for a turn on deck. And Schwinden's curveball is low. Oh, it's in there. Wow. Well, Bruce Druckman judged it as a strike, and it's the first career strikeout for Chris Schwinden. See where this ball ends up. 4-3 New York. Here's your AT&T trivia question. The Braves' single-season record for home runs in a season. That's redundant. So the Braves' single-season home run record. Now, we know that Henry Aaron has the career home run record for the Braves. But does he have the single-season home run record?
Interesting.
Because Henry was never hit 50.
Never hit 50.
And
just lived in the 40s.
I'm trying to think offhand if any Brave has ever hit 50. I don't think so. Ronnie Polino leading off for the Mets in the home second inning against Mike Minor, who gave up the Jason Bay grand slam in the first. And it's a ball and a strike to Polino.
Could be the first cover boy for Sports Illustrated.
Could be that. Great third baseman. Foul ball. That catches McCann. Boy, and he's not feeling good.
It looked like it caught him on the inside, or just inside that kneecap. It's almost like there's a little bit of padding there, but there's not that kind of hard plastic that they have in the front that protects them. So that's like getting a shot right to the inside of the knee.
And that's kind of like getting hit on the funny bone sometimes, in that it hurts a lot at first, but it's not serious. But that's what you hope.
Watch, it doesn't catch plastic. It's just a little bit of, oh boy, that is just right on that knee.
It's like fabric on the side.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was looking at something today, and you see the catching equipment that they have today is so much better than it was. It covers more, even though McCann wouldn't attest to it right now. But I was down in the Mets Hall of Fame, and I was looking at Gary Carter's signed catcher's equipment, and it's amazing how small it is compared to what the protection the players have today.
Well, David Ross is an excellent backup catcher, but if you were going to name the most indispensable Brave as they head toward a possible postseason berth, it might well be Brian McCann.
And he was the MVP of their first half of their season if they got off to that flying start. We just hope that he didn't break the kneecap. You know, that's what can happen. It comes underneath and kind of hits that bruise, hits that bone. You know, that is off the end of Paulino's bat, so that was not slowed down. Whatever the speed of that pitch was, it was maybe 2-3 miles an hour less as it hit on the inside of the knee of Brian.
Check out the Coors Light freeze cam.
And you know what's interesting? With his kind of style of catching, it opens him up to that kind of injury, because most catchers are pretty face forward to the pitcher and their kneecaps are protected, but he has kind of that flop style of catching where he gets his backside down real low to give a low target, and it cost him there.
So it exposes his knees more than your average catcher.
He's like the old Tony Esposito, who's the goaltender, that kind of style.
Butterfly catcher. Well, McCann looks like he's going to try and tough it out. But he's going to take a practice pitch here and see how it feels.
Those catchers are tough, I'll tell you. You know, not only to catch the great staff that he catches, but also to lay out the offense that he does also. Unique talent, Brian McCann.
And he's staying in.
Well, the only one that's hip to his pain probably is the batter who hit him, Ronnie Paulino.
So Polino back in the batter's box. Minor's ahead of him 1-2, leading off in the bottom of the second. McCann immediately has to go down to the dirt and absorb another blow.
It's one of the reasons catchers hate pitchers at times, right there. Swindon on deck.
And the off-speed pitch misses, and it's 3-2. By the way, when Bay hit the grand slam in the first inning, it was only the third home run Minor's given up this year in 63 innings. So he's not exactly a purveyor of the long ball. As Polino pops one up, Hayward coming on to call. One away. So Polino makes the first out of the bottom of the second. Now Chris Schwinden will pass another milestone, his first big league plate appearance. That's his career minor league slate. 1 hit in 21 at-bats, 1 for 13 this year. The way it works in the minor leagues is that below the AA level, they use the DH in all games.
Yeah.
And once you get to AA, and then it's the same in AAA, when one National League affiliate plays another National League affiliate, the pitchers hit. Otherwise, they use the DH. So here Schwinden spends a whole year in the minor leagues, gets only 13 at-bats. And I wonder, since the advent of that, and it's been a decade or more, with so few at-bats for pitchers in the minor leagues, how anybody gets into the majors and can hit at all.
And when you're in the minor leagues and you're not getting those at-bats, it's not like here where occasionally the starting pitchers will, at least twice a week, will get some at-bats. You get nothing down in the minor leagues.
And Schwinden hits a dribbler. Minor off the mound. 2 out. Let's check in with Kevin Burkhardt. Kevin?
Well, guys, you got a game today that's not on the original schedule, of course, with the hurricane, and you're wondering, why do you come to a game like this? Because you never know what's going to happen, like Ian Freed, who threw out the first pitch today. You know how he was selected to throw out the first pitch? Well, because of the strange nature of today, Mets put on their official Twitter page, hey, if you're in the ballpark and want to throw out a first pitch, be the first to tweet us back. Ian did. Throw out the first pitch. How about that? Talked to him on the field. I was like, how'd you get this? He said, I just tweeted it a couple minutes ago, and here I am. He was flying. So pretty cool moment for him. Never know what can happen at the ballpark, guys, right?
You never know. And by the way, that he was wearing a Santana jersey throwing out the first pitch today. Yeah. A guy in a Santana jersey will be throwing the first pitch tomorrow in Savannah. That will be the actual Johan Santana, who will make a rehab start in a Class A playoff game for the Savannah Sandnats. So Santana goes to Savannah.
That's funny.
Tejada pulls one down to third, and Chipper Jones down to a knee. And it's a 1-2-3 inning from Mike Minor. A little pain for McCann along the way. 4-3 New York after 2. A pregame remembrance to begin at 7:30 p.m. Chris Schwinden back to the mound for the third inning, working with a 4-3 lead. By the way, before we waste any more time here, the Mets have had a pretty long list on the disabled list over the last couple of years, but never have they had a more devastating injury than the one that occurred this morning, when Mets Vice President of Media Relations Jay Horwitz went down with a severely broken ankle. And Jay, who started this job more than 30 years ago and I think has missed 3 games in that time, is resting comfortably at the hospital for special surgery and is going to be undergoing surgery on his ankle on Monday. And I I don't know what the time frame for Jay on the DL is, but he might miss the rest of the season.
Wow.
So Jay, as Chipper Jones drives one deep down the right field line, headed toward the Pepsi porch, and it's out of here. So Chipper Jones ties up the ball game with his 16th home run of the year. And Chipper has his 48th career home run against the Mets. It's 4-4.
Well, he might not have been hitting in that second slot since 1996, but he has adapted to it well.
452 career home runs now for Chipper.
Chipper's watching on the bench. He's looking at that little cutter from Schwinden, who tried to backdoor that cutter, did not, right down the middle of the plate, and went where Stanton goes.
So now Brian McCann takes a strike. Well, I'm sure Jay's going to think now that Chipper hit that home run just because we were talking about it. But this is clearly not the same building for any game without Jay Horwitz in it. So, Jay, hurry back.
Yeah.
We send you all our best. And I don't know. I don't even know what Jay will do with himself, unable to come to the ballpark, as McCann takes a call, third strike. I mean, you're talking about a man who comes to the park at 11 in the morning for a 7 o'clock night game.
And last person to leave, and I know we wish him well on Monday. I know he's having his surgery on Monday, and we hope that everything goes well. And that's Jay's seat next to Ethan, of course.
Now, I have to tell another little story here, which is that, Jay hurt himself this morning. Night before last, in a far less serious scenario, Jay's assistant, Shannon Dalton, was at home and went to feed her baby and stood up, and she fractured her ankle, and she's in a boot and on crutches. Oh. So if you're Ethan Wilson, who's the number 3 man in that department, I say it's time to put a little bubble wrap around Ethan.
Yeah, the boy in the plastic bubble right away.
0-2 to Ugla. I mean, Ethan, beware.
He'll take care of himself. Ethan's a Massachusetts kid. He knows how to take care of himself.
0-2 to Dan Ugla, who hit a shot to David Wright, who made a nice play on him first time up. And it's low and away, 1-2. So seriously, I mean, Jay's going to watch. He's probably watching the game now. So that gives him, 6 or 7 hours of entertainment today with a doubleheader. But what's he going to do tomorrow? It's only one game. Ugla down on strikes, so back-to-back strikeouts for Schwinden, and there are 2 out.
Well, both on breaking balls. One called third strike to McCann, and this one well placed in the dirt to Ugla. Honestly, don't know what he's going to do. I mean, he just is a. They call baseball players and coaches lifers. Well, he's the lifer when it comes to the PR department.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Freddie Freeman, who doubled off the wall in left center to drive in a pair in the first inning. Mets 4, Braves 4. We're in the third. Braves got 3 in the first off the first-time starter Schwinden. Chris Schwinden is the 51st pitcher to make his major league debut with a start for the Mets. The first one in 1964 was Darryl Sutherland, who started the first game of a doubleheader just like Schwinden is today against the Milwaukee Braves. Lined into center field, and Freeman has his second hit. Well, Schwinden has already fared better today than Darryl Sutherland did in that start, the first ever by a Mets first-time starter in '64. Sutherland faced only 6 batters, got 1 out, gave up 5 runs. So even though things haven't gone swimmingly for Schwinden, he's already ahead of the game. He's given up 5 hits over 2 2/3 innings. Now Martin Prado, who drove in a run with an infield hit his first time up. And he chases a high fastball, 0-1. Two out, Freeman at first. A 1-strike count to Prado. And Prado again goes after the high fastball, and it's 0-2. By the way, the last Mets first-time starter last year was Dylan G. And he got a win his first time out, that memorable performance against the Nationals, where he held them hitless for the first 5 innings.
Getting a win in your first start is, you'd think there'd be more, but there aren't. It just doesn't happen that often.
Well, of the last 17 Mets to start their career with a starting assignment, only 3 of them got the win. Mike Pelfrey in 06 and Masato Yoshi back in 98. Little blooper into shallow left, and that's going to fall for a hit for Prado. Just reached out and served it into left. So Prado is 2 for 2. An infield hit and a bloop.
That swing resembled more what would happen across the street here. A little drop shot by Prado. Over the head of right and in front of Bay.
McEnroe would be proud.
He would be well placed.
So 3 different Braves have 2 hits apiece. Chipper with a double and a home run. Freeman a double and a single. And now Prado 2 singles. Here's Hayward with 2 out and 2 on. Flied out to left his first time up. And he takes a big rip at the cutter, 0-1. I was shocked to read this morning that when the Braves lost in Philadelphia yesterday to get swept in the 3-game series, it was the first time the Braves have been swept in a series all year. It's an incredible level of consistency. Little broken bat bloop to shallow center. That's going to fall in front of Pagan for a hit. Freeman is in to score. On to third goes Prado. Another soft hit for Atlanta, and they take a 5-4 lead. So Hayward with a bloop single, and Atlanta's back in front.
You know, the complaint here always from the hitters is what? That you can't hit the ball out of this ballpark. But the result is the outfielders play so deep, very much like Colorado in the day, that you get a lot of these dunkers in front of the outfielders. You'll see 4 or 5 a game.
Well, we've seen some center fielders come here and play shallow. We've seen it with Victorino. And, you know, at the end of the day, I know a lot of pitchers will say, look, if they hit it over your head, that's my fault. Make sure you catch what's in front of you.
Yeah, I agree, especially in this ballpark, is that what's great about if you have some speed, you can play shallow like Pagan, and you can go catch everything. But you can't play really shallow on Hayward, even though he's having a tough year. He can hit the ball 500 feet.
500 feet, you're not going to catch it anyway. 400, though. Here's Alex Gonzalez, first and third and 2 out. And Gonzalez lofts one foul, and that'll go out of play. Gonzalez popped up to first base his first time up. Mets get their bullpen working. DJ Carrasco is up. Schwinden's now given up 5 runs and 7 hits over 2 2/3. Prado at third and Hayward at first with 2 out. By the way, Ronnie, you brought up the name of Clay Rapata before.
Was I right or wrong?
I believe you were right, but here's the irony, and you're bringing it up today. The Orioles just beat the Yankees in 10 innings, 5-4. Winning pitcher, Clay Rapata.
Wow.
How about that? His first win of the year. Faked the third, and Hayward was not fooled.
I think he still would have preferred Pagan's ball to stay in the ballpark.
But it's, you know, it's karma.
There you go. Right.
It was his way of the world getting even.
We gave him a negative stat, and now we give him a positive
Exactly.
one. Good.
Now the 0-2, and it's taken high. By the way, you know, I know the Mets have had a kind of grueling schedule lately, but how about the Yankees and the Orioles?
Wow. I mean, they played to what, about 2:15 that one night when they started the game at 11:08.
Then they came back to play at 1 o'clock yesterday. Then they went to Baltimore and played at 1 o'clock today. And now the Yankees go to the West Coast.
Well, the lucky thing for the Yankees going to the West Coast is they'll play in Anaheim, good weather. They'll go to Seattle, roof, and then they'll go to Toronto on the way back. And that's, of course, another stadium where you won't have any rain delays.
I wasn't aware that Toronto was on the West Coast.
Well, it's on the way back. It's on the way back.
Who scheduled that?
I don't know.
Wow. Seattle to Toronto, huh? They could have stopped in Vancouver first, couldn't they? Gonzalez lays off. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Well, the pitcher, Mike Minor, who gave up a grand slam in the first inning, now finds himself back in front as he waits on deck. Schwinden's 2-2, and he strikes out Gonzalez. So 3 strikeouts in the inning for Chris Schwinden. But the Braves score a pair to go back in front. Hayward's hit put them in front after Chipper Jones tied the game. His 16th of the year, his 48th against the Mets, and it's 5-4 Atlanta. By IOTV, and you can listen to every Mets game on Sports Radio 66 WFAN. The Cubs are in for the weekend, starting tomorrow night, both Friday night and Saturday on Pix 11, then back on SNY on Monday for the first of 4 with the Nationals. Then the Mets make their final road trip to Atlanta and St. Louis before coming home to finish the season against the Phillies and the Reds. The season ends this year on a Wednesday afternoon.
Crazy, right?
Seems awfully weird. Here's Justin Turner leading off in the home 3rd inning. I believe they're going to go back to a Sunday finish next year. Remember, this year they opened on a Friday and they're finishing in the midweek. The tradition has been to start on a Monday and finish on a Sunday.
Well, I think, for the playoffs, they get the American League starting on Friday night, so maybe that's what they were thinking of when they ended the season. It doesn't allow them a lot of time, though, if you have to play a West Coast team or you're coming back from the West Coast.
Or if there's a game 163.
There you go.
On that Thursday. Minor with the 0-2, and Turner fouls it off. I'm not sure, but I believe everybody's playing in the daytime on that final Wednesday, which will enable all the postseason teams to get where they need to go.
Well, Texas and Los Angeles still awfully close, right? At 2.5.
Well, the Angels won last night, and the Rangers lost to get it back to 2.5. As this one's hit sharply and off the glove of Freeman, recovered by Ugla. Can the pitcher get there? No. Turner beats it out. Minor did not get there in time after Freeman deflected it over to Ugla, and Turner has an infield hit.
Well, it's too bad. You have your first baseman laying out, trying to stop a hit for you, and your inability to. You became someone who was watching the play instead of participating in the play. Ugla right on it, throws a strike over there, but Minor had paused way too long to make this a play. Hit for Turner. Watch the pitcher. He's a spectator, and then he runs. That's way too late, my friend.
I mean, you were taught, unless I'm mistaken, as soon as contact is made on a ball hit to that side of the field, you start moving, right?
Not only do you start moving, but the catcher will scream, Gary, get over there as loud as you can hear it. Any ball to the pitcher's, of course, Minor's left, right-handed pitcher to his glove side. Anything that way, you always proceed. You never know what's going to happen.
Duda pops one foul, and it's 0-2.
I've had a play before where it's right to the second baseman. I was going there, like in anticipation, but knew it wasn't going to happen. And the first baseman on his way back tripped and fell over. And you're able to make the play only because, just something that never happens happened once.
Well, it worked out for Justin Turner, who now has an 8-game hitting streak. He's the tying run at first with Duda at the plate. Duda had a base hit his first time up. And he taps this one to the left side. Gonzalez gets the out at second. Ugla the turn, not in time. Duda able to lumber down the line and beat the double play.
Who's any quicker than Gonzalez, by the way? He is on his way throwing as he's fielding that ball, and Ugla, of course, always stands his ground. I thought they had him at first. Let's take a little tiny peek and see if Duda did get there in time.
By the way, you were talking earlier about...
Yes, he did. He did beat it.
You were talking earlier about Turner going hard to second base. He certainly did there. And Ugla did a good job using the bag for protection. So 1 out and 1 on. Now David Wright, who hit a flare double down the right field line his first time up. Anyway, we were talking about the Angels closing ground on the Rangers, and last night Jerome Williams, who has come back from, I don't know, everywhere but the major leagues.
Semi-oblivion.
I mean, he went to Taiwan. He was pitching for the Lancaster Barnstormers in the Atlantic League earlier this year. And last night, 8 innings, 1 hit to beat Seattle and get the Angels back within 2.5 as Wright hooks one foul. 2-1.
Well, this is the time of year in September when you have some pitchers who other teams have not seen a lot, and you have these outstanding games from these no names. Zach Stewart this week for the Chicago White Sox. The Oakland A's pitcher yesterday had a no-no through 7 2/3.
Guillermo Moscoso.
And Williams last night.
I mean, Williams, I remember when he first came up with the Giants, he was a pretty good prospect for them, but he disappeared 5-6 years ago. And I mean, if you're pitching in Taiwan, you're probably not on the big league radar at that point. But he has resurfaced. Wright hits one hard, and that's just foul. Ronnie's cousin Gary Darling called that a foul ball.
That's right, cuz you'll see it had enough loop in this that it just misses the line by 4 or 5 inches. Right on it is Gary. I think that maybe Ryan Vogelsong has given everyone some inspiration, right, with his trip around the world and now settled in with the Giants.
Well, the Rangers looked like a lock not that long ago. And what's also interesting is that the Rangers at 81-63 are only a half game separated from the Tigers at 81-62. And which of those teams finishes with the better record will determine which of them plays the Yankees and which of them plays the Red Sox in the opening round. Three and 2 to Wright. And the other piece of that, of course, is that the team that plays the wild card team will have home field in the first round and that 5th game at home.
And if you have to play the Angels, if they come back on Texas, they might have better starting pitching at Texas. They have a guy, Jared Weaver, who could be a kind of a closed-down pitcher in a 5-game series.
And Dan Herron has that capability as well.
And Irvin Santana, who's had some great games, too, this year. Not as consistent as he was last season, but certainly has it in him. No hitter, right?
Well, he had a stretch of about a month to 6 weeks where he was getting everybody out.
Right.
But Weaver and Herron's a pretty good one, too. Now, of course, if you face Detroit in the first round, you're talking about facing Verlander twice. Now, obviously, there's a huge drop-off after Verlander, but if you are the Yankees and Red Sox, who would you least like to face? Detroit, Texas, or Anaheim?
The other part of that picture is Texas probably has as good a hitting, especially in their ballpark, as anyone in the game. But you look at their pitching. C.J. Wilson, coming off his first career shutout, has been a lock all season long. But you look behind there, see Matt Harrisons and the Colby Lewises and Ogando, who looks like he's ran out of pitches.
Right.
By the way.
Well, they skipped his start. Strike 3 called, and so David Wright on the 9th pitch of the at bat goes down looking. And Minor has his second strikeout.
Outstanding pitch. It's that one we see usually from right-handers to left-handers that comes back over the plate, freezes David right at his hip, and catches a lot of that plate.
So 2 out, Duda still at first, and now Angel Pagan, who walked and scored his first time up.
Talking about the Angels, Trumbo, lock for the Rookie of the Year? I think so.
I think so. I can't see anybody else in that league. Luke Nova's not a rookie, is he?
Nova is a rookie.
Well,
yeah.
you certainly have to consider
What's
him.
He got 15 now?
Yeah, he got no decision today, but he's been winning every time out.
That's right.
The Yankees might wind up with a Rookie of the Year. They might wind up with an MVP, but they're not getting the Cy Young this year.
No.
I think that one's over.
It's locked.
Ball and a strike to Pagan. We ran a poll question the other day whether pitchers should be considered for the MVP. Do you have an opinion on the subject?
Well, if I do have an opinion. If I want to split it up, as we have 2 outs here, I'll do it quickly. Starting pitching and relief pitching are different things. I don't think starting pitchers can be MVPs of the league. I don't think they do enough once every 5th day. But a relief pitcher who can have a year like a Willie Hernandez in '84, like a Eckersley in '92, where they Lidge, even Lidge, what is he, 41 for 41 that year. I think they should be considered because they play a huge part in their team's success.
Right, and to a certain extent, as Pagan hits one to the right side and threw for a base hit. Duda will stop at second. I mean, you can certainly look at a closer and say that guy is an everyday player.
Yeah.
Especially if he's pitching in 80 games a year.
Yeah, and as we've watched successful teams and not so successful teams, when you get on a roll and your closer gets on a roll, it's like all we have to do is play 7, 8 innings and we're going to win this game. And that's the home run. Grand slam, of course, from Jason Bay, his second of the year, as he is starting to hit the ball with real authority.
First time this year he's had extra base hits in 4 straight games. And the home runs are starting to come. He now has a dozen, which matches David Wright's total for the year. So bats here with 2 out and 2 on. And the Mets down by a run in the 3rd.
Gary, you just said something significant. A stretch of games with extra base hits. He won a stretch of games where he didn't have a double. Stretch of at-bats without a double. So when he's hitting the ball for extra bases, then you know he's starting to hit like he used to.
Minor got ahead of Bay 0-2 the last time. He's ahead 0-2 again. And this time Jason gets under one to center field. And Bourne standing there waiting for it. And that retires the side. 2 hits and 2 left. We're through 3 in game 1 of the doubleheader. 5-4 Atlanta. As the Braves' single-season record for home runs. That's right. I forgot that Andrew hit 51 that year in 05.
How soon we forget, right?
Well, there was an era there for 10 or 15 years when 50 became routine.
That's right.
50 was never routine, and it's not routine anymore.
Except for maybe the Toronto Blue Jays, Jose Bautista.
Well, doesn't look like he's going to get there.
No.
He's only got 40, and might get there, but it would take a lot. The second on that list behind Andrew was Henry Aaron's 47 in 1971. And third is Chipper, who had 45 in 1999.
So Matthews didn't make that list at all? Huh. We were referring when we said the SI cover boy in their first issue was Eddie Matthews.
Dale Murphy's best year was 44 as a Brave. Andres Galarraga hit 44 for Atlanta in 98. And then, of course, there was the great Davey Johnson 43 year. That was the year the Braves became the first team to have 3 players with 40 or more. Wright with the charge, throws out Minor, 2 out. And everybody always forgets who the third in that trio was. They remember Dave because it was extraordinary, and of course Hank Aaron, but the third,
Darrell Evans?
Darrell Evans, right? Who might have been one of the more underrated players of his era.
He's also a very enigmatic player. When he used to take batting practice at Detroit, he used to always pull the ball foul in batting practice. He'd try to hit foul home runs because he figured in the game the ball would be 10 to 15 miles an hour quicker, and that way he would still be pulling the baseball. So everyone in the stands, the fans, would line up foul of the right field foul pole, and he would just yank home runs into foul territory.
That actually makes a tremendous amount of sense when you think about it.
In a weird way, right?
You're facing, 80, 75 mile an hour batting practice pitching, and if you're yanking them foul, then, when you face 90 during the game, it should straighten out and go out down the line. Perfect. How come nobody else does that? I mean, he had over 400 home runs in his career.
Maybe someone did. They just didn't say it out loud like he did. He did have a very dangerous straight pull hitter when he played for the Tigers.
Success generally breeds imitation. And the thing that always struck me was watching Barry Bonds during those great years choking up on the bat and not seeing anybody else who aspired to be a power hitter doing the same thing. I mean, his bat was so incredibly quick with that 2-inch choke up, you would have figured that somebody would have tried to copy him.
Well, Barry, more than anyone, definitely tapped into the bat speed as the key and really used that. The other thing he had, of course, and this is from day one, folks, so it's not about maybe the player you saw with the Giants, because I faced Barry in his first year, is that he had unbelievable plate discipline from the second he came up.
Hot shot. Tejada is there to grab it and throws out the speedy Bourne by half a stride, 2 away. That's great presence by Tejada's part. He knew exactly who was running and what his time frame was.
Well, he had a bullet at him, so he knew he had a little more time. But the great thing about Tejada is instincts are much beyond his 21 years.
Here's Chipper, who homered his last time up.
I was saying about Barry Bonds is that when he first came up, he led off for that Pittsburgh team, and they were not a good team at the time. And he knew from day one, as soon as he stepped in that batter's box, I don't care what pitcher you were, who you were, he would give you a look like, just get it over. I'm going to hit it out of the park. Just had so much confidence from day one.
Probably born with that.
Yes.
Well, Freddie Gonzalez put Chipper in the 2 spot today, and it's proved to be an inspired move. A double and a home run in his first 2 at-bats. Chipper up among the greatest Met killers of all time. Don't know if he'll ever be able to catch Willie Stargell's 60 home runs against the Mets. But he's in pretty good company there. Hall of Famers all. Whacks this one to left center. Playable for Pagan. And Angel back near the edge of the track to grab it. So a 1-2-3 inning for Chris Schwinden, his second. 5-4 Atlanta in the 4th. access to exclusive New York sports content, including up-to-the-minute sports news and original video. Visit Facebook and like SNY today. That's down by a run as they come to bat in the bottom of the fourth. Nick Evans to lead off. Evans struck out his first time up against Mike Minor, who has struck out 2 and walked 1, allowed 4 runs and 5 hits. All the runs coming on one swing of the bat by Jason Bay in the first inning. Braves with 3 in the first and 2 in the third against Chris Schwindel. This is rather a unique happenstance today in that the Mets are pitching Schwindel and the Braves Minor in the first game. And then in the second game of the doubleheader, Dylan G will go for the Mets, and Julio Teheran will make just his third major league start for Atlanta. And so you've got 4 rookies as the starting pitchers in a doubleheader.
Well, it's a little unusual for the Mets, but I find it very unusual for a Braves team that is vying for a playoff spot in a doubleheader that they need to have, of course, to keep that distance between them and the Cardinals. They have 2 rookies going tonight.
And of course the answer is they've got injuries that are very troublesome to 2 of their key components. Jair Jurgens, who's got a bone bruise on his knee, and Tommy Hanson is dealing with a shoulder problem. Evans just stays alive. Now Jurgens has gone to see the same doctor in Colorado who treated Carlos Beltran when Beltran had the bone bruise on his knee. Hanson is here and was doing some throwing in the outfield today.
He might throw a bullpen pretty soon.
But we talked a few weeks ago, you and Keith and I, about the various staffs heading toward the postseason, and you know the Braves without Hanson and Jurgens are just a shadow of what they would be otherwise. I mean, you got Tim Hudson at the front of the rotation and then a whole lot of question marks. 3-2 to Evans, and he pulls one down to third past Chipper Jones. A base hit for Nick. So Chipper playing right along the line with the lefty on the mound and Evans at the plate. Couldn't get to that ground ball.
Well, when you get to be a veteran player, some of your skills will diminish. It was interesting right there. I just missed it. Is Chipper Jones, when the pitch was delivered, he took a step towards the line, which really stopped any of his lateral movement from going the other way, and that's why he missed that play.
So now Ronnie Polino, who flied out to right his first time up. Evans at first and nobody out, and Polino yanks one foul. If Hanson and Jurgens are not back and the Braves do make it to the postseason, you have to wonder how Freddie Gonzalez would set his rotation for a prospective playoff series. They would probably be playing Milwaukee in the first round.
Well, Hudson would automatically be their number 1. When you look at the pitchers underneath him, you'd have to look at Lowe. You'd have to look at Beachy, who's pitched pretty well. Minor, of course, is pitching today. Maybe you're hoping that one of the young kids, Delgado or Teheran, pitches a second game, might come through.
Double play ball right at Gonzalez, and the rest is easy. Ugla on to Freeman for the 6-4-3 double play. Well, I think that's the hope if you're Atlanta, because you know the 2 young pitchers who they have going now, Delgado, who pitched on Sunday, and Teheran, who pitches today, have enormous upsides. And you know, Brandon Beachy's been okay, but you know, against that powerful Milwaukee lineup, you know, maybe you'd like to throw a little wrinkle in there.
The only reason I say Beachy is because he pitched in the postseason last year and he looked pretty good. You know, looked like he wasn't phased by the experience.
Oh, it's interesting because Freddie Gonzalez was raving about Beachy today, guys. He thought, you know, last night I should say, that loss to the Phillies, he pitched really well, and he thought it was, you know, kind of a turning point for him. And I asked him why. He said, well, he was aggressive. You know, he threw strike 1, he threw his curveball conviction, and you know, he took ownership of his game. And he said the thing that I like about Beachy this year is when there's been a problem, he's corrected it. Another example, beginning of the year, he was very easy to run on. He said now he's got it down, or he's like a 1-1-1-2, so he's getting better and better.
Gonzalez makes the play on Schwindel, and the inning is over. Well, it's something the Braves are going to have to contend with. First, though, they have to make sure they hold off the Cardinals in that wild card race. They've got a big series coming up there this weekend. in his major league debut. He got off to a rough start today, gave up 3 runs in the first inning, yielded a Chipper Jones home run in the third, and it's 5-4 Atlanta as we start the 5th. McCann, Ugla, and Freeman, the 3 scheduled hitters in the 5th against Schwinden. McCann has walked and taken a call third strike. He went down looking in the third. That was shortly after Ronnie Polino fouled a ball off the inside of McCann's knee. And you have to think that he's a little sore right now as the Mets throw the shift up against McCann. So we'll see if he's more in attack mode this time a couple of innings later. Here you see the overshift. And the changeup from Schwinden. 2 balls, no strikes. And McCann pops it up. Who's going to play it?
That's as high as it gets right there.
Guy with the biggest glove has it. 1 away. It's Big East football on SNY. Get live conference action all day long on SNY's triple header Saturday, featuring Rutgers at North Carolina, Rhode Island at Syracuse, and UConn at Vanderbilt. It all starts Saturday at 12:30, only on SNY. This is where you're supposed to jump in and, tell me all about college football.
The Big East has gotten bigger.
Well, Keith showed off his football knowledge on the broadcast yesterday.
Gary, you and I are 1A school guys. Come on, we can't mess with this big football stuff.
Well, your school plays in a very big stadium.
It does.
And once every 2 years, they put a lot of people in there.
That's right.
When the Harvards and the Yales meet in the Yale Bowl.
That's right. That the 3rd week in November.
I mean, the Yale Bowl, that was an NFL football venue.
Giants played there.
Tuna Oda Ugla, who's 0 for 2. I mean, I don't think there's ever been a professional football game at Baker Field,
No?
Ween Stadium, at the tip of Upper Manhattan.
I did see 90,000 people in there, though. My freshman year went to the game. Of course, freshmen can't play varsity. There were 90,000 people in there.
Ugla swinging 3-0 and grounds one to Tejada. Low throw, but Evans, who's been almost perfect on those scoops, pulls up another one, 2 out.
Well, the infielders on this Mets team should, on this next road trip when they have an off day, on Monday in St. Louis, they all should take Evans out for dinner.
Looked like Tejada choked that ball.
He did, almost like came out like a changeup.
How is an infielder, when you get a grip on a ground ball, can you avoid having that ball back in your hand like that?
Well, it's interesting. Sometimes you can't avoid it. It comes up. Sometimes it has so much spin on it, kind of spins in your hand when you get it, and you'll just have a bad grip, and you kind of just try to force it over there. But it's interesting to watch the difference between Reyes and Tejada when they throw the ball to first base. Tejada's more from the school of, Santana when I played shortstop, to get the baseball and just put a little air under it and make sure they get the runner in time. Where if you're born with an arm like Reyes, you got to show it off every single time.
Freeman hits it up the middle. Turner can't quite get there. And Freddie Freeman is 3 for 3. So Freeman, who drove in a couple with a double in the first inning, had a 2-out single in the third, and now another 2-out hit just beyond Turner's reach. Well, with Reyes also, it's just his style of throwing. The way he loads up, it's almost like he's loading a rifle.
Yeah, or a slingshot.
Yeah.
Because you get that little recoil. He just likes to snap it, and everything kind of gets right back into place.
I've never seen anybody throw exactly like Reyes does. Here's Prado, who's 2 for 2. Let's check in with Kevin.
Talking to Freddie Gonzalez today, it was interesting. Obviously, part of the reason that he made the lineup switch and put Chipper Jones a second, and moving Prado down, part of it too is, Prado as a second place hitter after the trade for Bourne. Freddie said that he a lot of times would get caught watching and waiting and trying to extend at bats to let Bourne run, and it came to the point when Bourne actually said to him, "Hey man, don't worry about extending your at bat. Just go hit. I don't need you to do that for me. Basically, the pitcher's going to tell me if I can run or not, and that has nothing to do with you." Freddie kind of said he was he would let good pitches go by, trying to kind of give Bourne the space to run. So Bourne had to finally say something to him. Wasn't the total reason why the lineup changed today, but it was a small little part, guys.
Well, part of that, Prado had a very good year last year. This has not been the same kind of year for Prado. You look at his on-base percentage, it's .307, and that's just not what you need from one of your table setters.
Well, Freddie had to know, though, going in, that Prado's strength is he is a great first pitch fastball hitter. Putting him in that second hole was always going to cause some problems.
It didn't matter when they didn't have a base stealer.
Right.
Now that they do, it's a whole different story hitting second behind a guy like Bourne. Schwinden trying to make it through 5. Give himself at least a chance to get a W if the Mets can put up a couple of runs in the bottom of the inning. He's up to 87 pitches now with 2 out of the 5th.
Gary, you mentioned it before that Schwinden probably will make one start and one start only because of his innings pitched in Binghamton and Buffalo. The reason I mention that is that every time I would leave AAA, I wanted to go to, well, the one time really after 82, I wanted to go down to play winter ball, make some extra money, get some experience. But the Mets would never let you go if you had over 150 innings.
And Schwinden, with this inning, will have over 150 innings. He had 146 in AAA. He's already gotten to 150, going on 151 now. So, and Terry Collins said before the game that they'll keep him here and they might spot him for an inning or two, but this will probably be his only start. Now the 2-2 to Prado, and it's lifted in the air to center, and Pagan is there. So Schwinden able to complete 5 after a rough start. Halfway through in game 1 of the doubleheader, it's 5-4 Atlanta. Yeah, Mets got a grand slam in the first inning from Jason Bay. The Braves with 5 runs off Chris Schwinden in 5 innings in his major league debut. Chipper Jones with a home run along the way. Now the Mets come to bat in the bottom of the 5th, down by a run against Mike Minor. Top of the batting order, Ruben Tejada takes a strike. Tejada leading off in the opener. Jose Reyes, who leads the National League batting race, will play in game number 2. It's funny how that race has fluctuated just the last few days.
Yeah.
With Reyes falling behind and looking like he was, fading away. And then all of a sudden in the 9th inning, night before last, he got a hit, and he hadn't stopped hitting since.
Yeah, that extra inning game allowed him to get, what, 3 hits in that ball game?
And he just looked like he found his groove a little bit. You know, the line drive hits on the low pitches where he's able to, you know, get down and hit the ball hard into right field. He was getting tons of those early in the year, and all of a sudden those reemerged.
You know, I had to do the show on 6th Avenue, and I was surmising, I could be completely wrong, that he was tired. And instead of being so anxious like he's been all since he's come back from the injury, he kind of just relaxed and kind of played pepper with the baseball, which I think is his best way, where he just rains out hits.
Tejada hits another one to deep, but not deep enough left. And this is a disturbing trend with Tejada the last couple of days. Looks like he's trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Not a good sign. So 1 out and nobody on. Now Justin Turner. Turner's 1 for 2. Had an infield hit in the 3rd. That extended his hitting streak to 8 games. Mets and Braves are not the only National League teams playing a doubleheader today. The Nationals and Dodgers are playing a doubleheader in Washington. They finished the first game. LA won 7-4, 3 runs in the 9th. Second game, delayed by rain. Been a lot of long days for a lot of teams over the last couple of weeks. With first Hurricane Irene and then another tropical storm making its way from the Gulf Coast to the Northeast.
Was LA in Washington yesterday? Because there was a story that the game was postponed and then it was unpostponed and they couldn't find the necessary players to play the unpostponed game, so they postponed it again.
I hadn't heard that. Little tapper back to Minor, and he gets Turner for the second out. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Rums of Puerto Rico. Just think Puerto Rican rum aged by law for true excellence. To learn why Puerto Rico does it better, visit rumcapital.com. Well, certainly plenty of weather-related delays across the street. Are they going to be able to finish on time Sunday?
It's just amazing that the courts are so backed up now with the matches. Andy Roddick, I was watching today, he threw a fit because he had asked them to try to squeegee it or sop up the water in between sets, and they weren't doing it, so he went ballistic and they had to stop that for a while. And I saw the other night that Roger Federer had a game kind of like the Yankees had. I turned it on at 1:15. He was in the second set. 1:15 in the morning.
The courts at the National Tennis Center are much like the Hutchinson River Parkway.
Duda hits it to deep center field. Back goes Bourne to the warning track. It's over his head and off the wall. And Duda heads into second base with a long double.
Well, Duda's had no problems against left-handed pitching. His second hit today against Minor.
Well, when he centers it, it doesn't matter who's playing in center field. Bourne, we've seen make lots of catches over his head, but this ball just beats him. No chance to get all the way back there. Blocks it off that wall.
That's the 30th extra base hit for Duda in just 256 at bats. That's a lot of extra base hits. Let's check in with Kevin.
Talking to Lucas today, guys, about the time since Carlos Beltran was traded. I talked a lot about Beltran and how he was really a big help to Duda, kind of nurtured him along a little bit. And he said, well, there's been guys that have certainly taken over. Willie Harris has been more the vocal guy. Bay, I've really kind of followed his lead. He said, but also from my own standpoint, I have really just, I think, learned how to deal with failure. And when I came up, I amplified it. And I didn't have to do that. I just did not have to do that. But I do think that part of the game is just one thing everyone has to experience, learn how to deal with it and handle it their own way. And it's harder to do here in New York. So it took me a little time to do it. But I feel like I get that part of it now. I get that failure is going to happen and can kind of handle it. So he's learning on his own. He's getting little tidbits from guys like Harris and Bay. And it's all part of the package as Duda continues to grow.
And if you can handle failure, that allows you to be more aggressive.
Oh, absolutely. You get to a point where when you're a young pitcher and you're in a tie game and it's 2 outs and guys are on second and third, your first thought is, boy, if I give up a hit, I could lose this game. When you become a real good pitcher, you go, can't wait to get this out, give my team a chance to win me the game. I mean, that's how your mindset just changes completely. You know you're going to get the guy out because you have to get him out.
Now Miners falling behind right 3-1. The Braves have their bullpen working. Remember, these games are of utmost importance to Atlanta. Just got swept by the Phillies. They now find their lead shrunk to 6.5 over the Cardinals. And they go to St. Louis tomorrow to start a weekend series. And you know that St. Louis is figuring this is their big chance to make it a race down the last 2.5 weeks. Wright hooks one out to left field. And Prado's right there waiting for it. Side retired. A double and one left. We've played 5 in the opener of the doubleheader. It's 5-4 Atlanta. As the Mets and the Braves play a doubleheader here at Citi Field. Traffic's kind of light this afternoon. Daniel Herrera makes his first Citi Field appearance as a Met.
He made his first appearance for the Mets in Washington 6 days ago and has thrown 2 shutout innings and 3 outings.
Jason Hayward leads off in the top of the 6th. Hayward singled to center in the 3rd. He's also flied out 1 for 2. .6" Daniel Herrera. He walks through the clubhouse and he belongs, but he doesn't look like a major league player in profile. He looks like one of the clubhouse kids.
That's all right. None of those clubhouse kids can get him out. It's good to see.
And he strikes out Hayward to start his outing.
Well, it's interesting when you look at Herrera. He throws everything in the kitchen sink up there. He has the curveball, the cutter, screwball, changeup. And he makes it all work here with the curveball to get Hayward swinging. You know he's got plenty of heart.
Well, he pitched in 70 games with the Reds 2 years ago, so he's got plenty of major league experience. Here's Alex Gonzalez, and he hits one out to center field. Pagan got a late start and got turned around, and it goes over his head. And Gonzalez goes to second base with a 1-out double. You know, it's one of those balls that last year Pagan gets a great jump on and probably catches. And this year, he just doesn't react the same way.
I think what happens on this ball over your head when you're a center fielder and the ball comes off the bat, you have to know that it's going to move at least 10 to 20 feet to your right, because coming off the bat it's going to have that spin, and Angel wasn't able to read that.
Antone Richardson will be the pinch hitter, batting for the pitcher Minor, and Dan Worthen will take a trip to the mound. While they talk, we'll check in with the studio. Chris Carlin standing by with the New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. All right, Chris. Now Herrera will face the pinch hitter Richardson. Arodys Vizcaíno is up in the bullpen for Atlanta. Richardson, a guy who started out in the Giants organization, 5'8", switch hitter. So you got Smurf battle here. Herrera against Richardson. Minor done after 5, a chance to be a winning pitcher, despite giving up the grand slam to Bay in the first inning. Richardson, just his 3rd big league at bat. He's 1 for 2, and he takes the curveball for a strike. Tap back to Herrera, looks the runner back and throws out Richardson 2 away.
Boy, that was a nice job of fielding his position. Just picture perfect from Herrera. The comebacker, he got off the mound and covered a lot of ground to his right-hand side, its glove side. Good play. Snatches it, looks back to runner Gonzalez at second base, and proceeds to first for the out. Picture perfect.
So 2 away. Gonzalez still at second. And now Michael Bourne is 0 for 3. Grounded out twice. Took a call 3rd strike in the second from Chris Schwinden, who went 5 innings in his big league debut. Schwinden allowed 5 runs, 8 hits, walked 1, struck out 4, allowed a home run, threw 100 pitches in 5 innings. And a good curveball by Herrera, 1-1. Two balls and a strike to Bourne. Chipper Jones in the still unfamiliar number 2 hole in the lineup. Now Herrera with a 2-1. And you know, it's interesting watching hitters react to pitches that they're not used to seeing.
That's right, below the hitting speed.
Mm-hmm. And Bourne pops one up in foul ground, right coming over, but it'll run out of room. And one of the green shirts goes flying.
For most major league hitters, they're used to seeing.
See, when you try and go someplace you're not supposed to, bad things are going to happen.
Well, I guess he's not going to make the pommel horse for the U.S. Olympic team. We got to see that again, Webby. Come
All
on.
the fans coming in today got those green shirts. Here's the 3-2. And it's on the inside corner. Got him looking at that screwball. And Bourne is down looking to end the inning. Now, when the security guard tells you not to hop over the fence, don't hop over the fence. Whoops. He goes for the Mets. Julio Teheran makes his third major league start for Atlanta. About a half hour after this game ends. Get complete pre- and post-game coverage of the Jets season opener with special guests and a Rex Ryan exclusive as Joe Klecko, Ray Lucas, Chris Jenkins, Adam Shine, and Brian Custer broadcast live from MetLife Stadium. Can they fit all of them? SNY's opening night coverage Sunday starting at 7 only on SNY. Arodys Vizcaino comes on to pitch for Atlanta.
Well, 4 years ago, he was considered one of the best international amateur prospects. Was Vizcaino, signed by the Yankees to a big contract and then traded over to the Braves for Javi Vasquez and Boone Logan. Good fastball, 92 to 94, and it has an overhand great hammer curveball.
And an already stocked Atlanta bullpen. You wonder whether there's going to be room on the postseason roster for Vizcaino. I mean, they've also got Peter Moylan back from a season on the disabled list, so you wonder whether it's going to come down to one of those two when they put together their postseason plans. Certainly the back end of that bullpen is as fortified as anybody in the game.
Teams out of the race have their auditions, so do teams in the race.
Jason Bay on deck, then Nick Evans, as the Mets try and come from behind in the bottom of the 6th. Pagan has walked and singled to right, and he takes that curveball for a strike, and it's 1-2. Mike Minor went 5 innings, allowed 4 runs, 7 hits, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. Allowed a home run through 95 pitches and has a chance to be a winning pitcher. You know, Minor started the day lifetime against the Mets in 3 starts, 1-0 with a 6.6 ERA. Well, he's a chance to go 2-0, and that ERA is going to go up.
Wow.
So he's been in the right place at the right time when he's faced the Mets, who have hit him pretty well. Mets 4 runs, 7 hits. Atlanta 5 runs and 9 hits. Change up away, 2-2. Vizcaino just 20 years old. Well, they've got some young pitchers on this staff. Vizcaino's 20, the second game starter for the Braves today. Teheran is only 20. 3-2 now to Pagan.
Well, it's just having the glut of arms, Gary, is the key. You know, you have enough of these guys that can throw 95 plus and command a breaking ball, and
Pagan hits it out to right field, and Hayward is there.
Listen, not all of them are going to make it, and some are going to sustain injury, and some are just going to not be talented enough to make it in the game. But if you have a glut of arms, some are going to squeeze through and make it and be outstanding.
And over the last 20 plus years, nobody's accumulated arms better than the Braves have.
And I think that's a way the New York Mets are going too. They're going to try to accumulate as many good arms as they can and see who can really rise to the top. Look at those numbers.
It's hard to believe that they're only 3rd in ERA when you've got Kimbrel and Venters at the end of the game who give up virtually nothing. Bay drives one deep but foul the other way. Jason hit a grand slam in the first inning, his 2nd grand slam of the season and his 12th home run of the year. Flied out to center field with 2 men on in the 3rd. But when you have an organization like Atlanta that has been so successful year after year, decade after decade, identifying pitchers to sign, pitchers to draft, pitchers to trade for, you wonder what the system is in place that creates that.
Well, I think that with the numbers that are available now, you know, we do advertisements for social media all the time, don't we? Everyone has all the same numbers. It's how you crunch the numbers are the key. Can you come up with original numbers to see and develop or just know which are the better pitchers, which are not? The problem is most of these kids are such a young age. So when I look at a good organization, I think they're all doing the same. They're trying to get a glut of pitchers. They're trying to make sure that they have enough so some will be better than others. But it tells me that Atlanta develops their pitchers as well as anyone in the major leagues. And that's where the key comes. You're signing them so young. Can you develop them? Atlanta's doing better than anyone else.
Day goes down looking for the second out. So you think that it's less identifying the right pitchers to sign or to draft than it is what they do with them once they get there?
It's part luck now. I mean, you know, you could see 3 great international amateur prospects, and you pick one and someone else picks the other and the other develops. So it's part luck. But I do think when the bottom line is that if you get all these young pitchers and they're all equal, they all throw 95 plus, it's how you develop them. Can you develop them and teach them a secondary pitch so they become valuable? And the other thing is identifying them. Identify whether they're a bullpen guy or whether they're a starting pitcher guy. And I think some organizations don't do that as well as others.
And of course, you know, as you said, some of it is just sheer luck. I mean, Johnny Venters was a 30th round draft pick.
Yeah.
You know, who would have expected that he would have become the pitcher that he's become? Nick Evans pops up to end the inning, so Vizcaino comes in and sets the Mets down 1-2-3 and sends us along to the 7th, 5-4 Atlanta. The 7th will face Chipper Jones. Chipper has a double and a home run today, 2 for 3. His home run tied the game in the 3rd, his 16th of the year, and his 48th against the Mets. Hit it up in the Pepsi porch in right field, batting left-handed. Now batting right-handed. He hits a 2-hopper to David Wright. 1 away. Well, when we looked at the numbers on Daniel Herrera when he came over, they spoke volumes about his inability to get right-hand hitters out. But so far, in the small sample that we've seen over this last week, it looks as though he has the pitches to get both lefties and righties out. McCann trying to bunt with the Mets playing the shift, and he fouls it off.
You know, what's interesting is that you don't usually see a pitcher come in and throw this many assortment of breaking balls. Lots of curveballs. That screwball, of course, is a pitch that you'll never see, made famous in Flushing here by Mr. McGraw.
Well, when you're 5'6", 160 pounds, you better find yourself some weapons.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to invent them on the run.
Dan Uggla waiting on deck. And McCann lays off, and it's just off the plate. 2 balls and a strike. That's got Herrera from Milwaukee as one of the 2 players that were named later in the Frankie Rodriguez deal. And McCann pops one up to shallow left. Bay jogging in to get there. 2 out. So Herrera continues to produce outs. 6 batters faced, 5 outs recorded. And he'll take on Uggla with 2 out and nobody on. All the scoring in this game came in the first 3 innings. The Braves got 3 in the top of the first. Freddie Freeman a 2-run double. Jason Bay hit a grand slam in the bottom of the first to put the Mets on top. Chipper hit a home run in the third to tie it. And then Jason Hayward's broken bat single later in that third inning put the Braves in front. And now Uggla hits one straight away. This one Pagan has measured. And that retires the side. So 2 strong innings from Daniel Herrera in relief. 7th inning stretch time. Mets still down a run. By a run. Ronnie Polino will lead things off against Arodys Vizcaíno, who will begin his 2nd inning of relief. Polino is 0 for 2 today. He's flied out and grounded into a double play. Ronnie, did you see the little back and forth between the Cardinals and Niger Morgan?
Of course.
Or Tony Plush, or whatever he's calling himself today.
T-Plush.
You know, Lee Jenkins did an interesting story on Niger in Sports Illustrated week before last, and I understand that he's a really entertaining figure on that team, and he's become a real irritant to some other teams. And I guess the question then becomes, as Polino hits one into shallow right and Uggla goes out and puts it away, the question becomes, when is it too much? You know, when is a little personality become, you know, a stretching of the boundaries in the game?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, Gary, because in that article, what I found interesting is that when, as Willie Harris comes up the pinch hit for Herrera, what I found interesting is that when Igarashi warming up, when he came over, Niger Morgan, to Milwaukee, there was some hesitancy on that team, especially from the manager Ron Renicky, to see if they were going to allow him to be the T-Plush, the second character. And they decided to let him be him.
Eric O'Flaherty will come out of the bullpen to face Harris. This call to the bullpen brought to you by Lincoln. Mets trying to come from behind, down a run in the 7th. We'll be right back. favorite for the Braves at the end of their bullpen.
And what a year he's had. And the numbers only get better for Ventress and Kimbrel when they come in. But 1.13 ERA.
Josh Satin will be the pinch hitter. Willie Harris was announced into the game, but with the lefty, the Mets will go to Satin, who's 1 for 3 in his brief major league career. Got a start at first base in the series in Washington. Tim Burdick joins Ryota Igarashi in the Mets bullpen. And Satin takes a big cut, 1-1. Terry Collins has talked a couple of times about Satin's unorthodox swing, and you can really see it there.
Kind of almost leaves his feet. There's none of that toe tap, put the toe down with Satin. He kind of just sees it and hits it.
Well, he's been a guy who's hit everywhere he's been. The problem has been finding him a position. It's a slow ground ball, and Chipper Jones ranging wide. Makes the running toss to get Satin 2 out. So 2 out and nobody on. Now Ruben Tejada, who's 0 for 3 today. 2 fly balls today, 2 fly balls in Florida yesterday. So Ruben trying to avoid falling into that trap. Well, O'Flaherty right there with Mike Adams, who is no longer a Padre. He's been in Texas since the trading deadline for the best ERA in the National League among relievers. And Tejada sits one right through Ugla. One hopper, and Ugla just let it go 5-hole. Tejada looks like he's shaken up as he stumbles back to the bag at first.
Well, I thought he pulled a hamstring or something as he was running.
Looks fine here.
Oh, he slipped on the top of the bag.
So limping a little bit, but not leaving. So the error on Ugla gives the Mets a 2-out base runner.
You want to try to catch the inside of the bag and push off it. Once you get on top, the spikes will sometimes just really glide across that bag.
So the tying run at first with 2 down. Here's Justin Turner, and he takes a strike from O'Flaherty. Turner 1 for 3, an infield hit in the 3rd, giving him an 8-game hitting streak. Remember, the Mets broke a long scoreless streak by O'Flaherty when they faced the Braves a month ago. Ground ball toward the hole. Gonzalez boots it, and the Mets have 2 men on. I'm not sure that Gonzalez was going to be able to get it out because that ball was so slowly hit, but he boots it, and they'll give Turner credit for a hit.
Let's see how Tejada runs after going across that bag. He's running pretty well. Pretty good. He shook it off.
So a little shakiness on the Atlanta infield gives the Mets an opportunity with Lucas Duda coming up. Duda 2 for 3 today, a single and a long double to center field. All of that against the left-hander Minor, and now facing the lefty O'Flaherty. Duda was hitting .294 against lefties coming into today, so that's been no problem for him. He's up to .285 on the year, and he takes that fastball inside for ball 1. So after Arodys Vizcaíno retired all 4 batters to face him, O'Flaherty came on, got Satin to ground out, but now an error and an infield hit put a couple aboard for the Mets. Here's a strike, 1-1.
You notice that? That's interesting. O'Flaherty likes to start the left-handers in with that fastball to set up that cutter or slider away. Cost him last night as he hit Utley in the head in last night's ball game.
And Utley had to come out of that game with a concussion, and in fact has not traveled with the Phillies to Milwaukee. Grounded on the right side, and Freeman is there. He handles it cleanly, and that retires the side. So the Mets strand 2 in the bottom of the 7th, and it stays 5-4 Atlanta as we go to the 8th. Yeah, I don't hear any sound
Yeah,
at all
exactly.
from the engine. Ryota Igarashi, who has 2 wins in the last 4 games for the Mets, will come on to pitch the 8th.
Yeah, he's pitched a little better, throwing that breaking ball over for a strike.
Most importantly, he's been in the right place at the right time, and down by a run or tied is exactly where you want to be as a reliever if you want to get a win late in the game. First, he's got to get Freddie Freeman out. Freddie's 3 for 3 today, 2 singles and a double. He's driven in 2 runs and scored 2. Braves took the lead in the 3rd, and they've held it ever since. We're now in the 8th inning. Great work in relief by Daniel Herrera. Worked 2 innings, allowed no runs and 1 hit. Struck out a pair, and Freeman is robbed by Evans. Now Nick Evans just continues to shine with the leather.
What a nice play. You don't make this play unless you're ready to go first pitch. And boy, he covered some ground.
That ball was behind him.
Takes about 2 steps and then just leaps and just gets it in the webbing. Evans just continues to impress here. And he's been the most impressive this last 10 days or so to me.
So that's all that denied Freddie Freeman his 4th hit of the game. Now Martin Prado, who's 2 for 3 on the afternoon. An infield hit and a bloop single. He's driven in a run, and he takes a strike from Igarashi. Well, the 8th inning is coming for the Atlanta pitching staff, and that means it's time for Johnny Venters. O'Flaherty to Venters to Kimbrel has been the most successful bullpen trio in the major leagues this year.
Yeah, but Venters gave up a run in last night's ball game in the 8th inning, and they brought in Moylan, who gave up another run as they lost to the Phillies 3-2 late.
And it's also to be noted that the Mets have gotten to Venters twice this season. But those days for anybody have been few and far between. We mentioned that the Braves got swept by the Phillies. First time they've been swept in a series of 3 or more games this year. In fact, they had gone 44 consecutive series without getting swept. Now, the Mets swept them, but that wasn't a series. That was only 1 game.
That's right.
That was the game Capuano pitched before the 2 postponements week before last.
His 3rd career shutout with 13 punch-outs.
As good a game as the Mets have had pitched in a long time. One-two from Igarashi, and that just missed away with a split. 2-2. Jason Hayward waiting on deck. That's playing their 4th doubleheader of the year. They got swept in the first 2, but then they swept the Marlins in a doubleheader last week. The Braves are playing their 3rd doubleheader, and they've swept each of their previous 2, including one against the Mets in Atlanta. Remember that one back in April. That was the DJ Carrasco doubleheader. The Mets were scheduled to play the Braves on a Friday night. Carrasco had to pitch because the Mets were short a starter. They got rained out, and normally they would postpone that game till much later in the year, but the Braves wanted to play the next day because they knew the Mets were shorthanded.
Smart. And Carrasco struggled. A couple of home runs given up to Gonzalez early. What I remember about that series is the day after, when the Mets needed it most, Dylan G got a win for them.
That was his first start of the year. Came up when Chris Young was ailing, and G came up to fill a hole in the rotation, and he's been here ever since. Terry Collins and Ken Oberkfell going over the lineup card for late inning moves. Out to shallow right center. Duda started back, and that can't come in fast enough, and that lands for a base hit. So the right field education of Lucas Duda continues as he makes a bad move on Prado's ball, and it lands for a hit. Let's check in with Chris Carlin, see what's going on. New York State Smokers Quit Line game break. One out and one on. Here's Jason Hayward, 1 for 3, singled in a run back in the 3rd. That run put the Braves in front, and they've been in front ever since. Well, we talked to Mookie Wilson during the broadcast last night about Duda and about the challenges in right field. And, you know, it's all about getting jumps if you are not blessed with blazing speed. And, you know, Lucas just didn't read that ball correctly.
Well, I think what happens with guys that are kind of new to the outfield and a very challenging outfield here at Citi Field is that you try to play to not make a mistake. And when you play like that, you almost invariably always make a mistake because your first inclination on a ball is to take a step back or to freeze. And good outfielders don't do that. They read it right off the bat, and that would have been an easy play for Lucas, but a work in progress.
What's interesting about what you just said is to go back to what Kevin was talking about Lucas now at the plate versus when he first came up, and how realizing that failure is okay allows him to be a little more aggressive, and the results have followed. And I guess the same is probably true playing the outfield, although it's going to be a little more difficult because this is something he really hasn't done before.
You know, you're talking about the tutelage between Mookie Wilson and Duda. You know, it would be nice, and maybe it's happened already, but sometimes you'll get a veteran player or pitcher or whoever to go out and say, Lucas, play aggressively, buddy. Don't worry about that. If you make a mistake, I don't care. Just play it aggressive as you can.
And yet, on this last road trip, on that game-winning hit by Ryan Zimmerman, he played too aggressively and dove for a ball that he knew in retrospect he shouldn't have, and that allowed the winning run to score.
Well, intelligent aggression, right? You have to know what the situation in the game is. There's sometimes that there's a ball you might be able to catch, but you've got to play it on one hop because the situation says play it on one hop.
Now the 2-2, and Hayward fouls it back. I guess the question at the end of the day is, in this ballpark, with all the ground there is to cover out at right field, can Lucas Duda be an adequate enough right fielder that the Mets can play him there every day next year?
Well, with all the talk about Bay, some people have said playing center field. I don't believe that Jason can play center field except for every once in a while. Do you ever think of switching Duda to left field and Bay to right? Bay's a better outfielder. He's got more speed.
Well, I think that if you play him in left, then you take away the long throw, but it's still an enormous amount of ground to cover out there.
Although we saw Lucas play left field last year, and I thought he looked much more comfortable there than he has in right field so far. Small sample.
Prado at first, 3-2 count with one out. He's running. Hayward checks his swing, and I believe it's ball 4. So the throw is moot, and the Braves have 2 men on. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Cholula Hot Sauce. Want the perfect balance of flavor and heat? Add Cholula Hot Sauce to your next meal. Just look for the iconic wooden cap. By Capital One Bank's no closing fee refinance. What's in your wallet? And by Bob's Discount Furniture, proud to be the furniture store of the New York Mets. So Igarashi on a bloop single and a walk has 2 aboard. Alex Gonzalez the batter, and he takes it low and away for ball 1. Gonzalez doubled over Pagan's head in center field in the 6th. He's 1 for 3. Eric Hinsky is out on deck to be a pinch hitter. There's Prado at second, Hayward at first. It's funny how innings work out, right? First batter of the inning, Freeman, hit a bolt, and Evans with a great play robbed him of a hit. Prado hit a routine fly ball, and he got a hit. So on Igarashi's record, he's basically even.
Even, right?
It's just the guys who swung the bats might not feel that way.
You know, one thing that Igarashi could take from watching Herrera, who just pitched. Herrera has half the, let's say, natural stuff of an Igarashi. How does Herrera do it? He gets on the mound, he gets the sign, he makes the pitch. And that's something that, as Igarashi, wherever he moves forward, the only way to be successful for him, I believe, is to get the ball and throw it. He has a chance to at least throw strikes there. I think here he has so much time in between pitches that there's absolutely no way for him to have any tempo with his pitches.
There's a strike to Gonzalez. I wonder if any of that is cultural. I mean, Takahashi last year worked at a pretty decent rate, but most of the Japanese pitchers we've seen, whether it's Hideo Nomo or Daisuke Matsuzaka, they all work very, very slowly.
Except for Okajima, when he was relief pitching for Boston, worked very quickly. I think it has to do. I'm sure Gary, I see Carrasco get up with Burdak. It might have some things to do culturally, but I think it has to do a lot with all the relief pitchers we see today. A lot of them need that entire, get that 15, 16 seconds before they can regroup and deliver to the plate.
A little visualization, thinking things through, making everything perfect for their small slice of the game. 2-2 to Gonzalez, and he wastes one foul. That's why it was so refreshing watching Josh Stinson on that last road trip, because every time he went out there, threw strikes, worked pretty quickly, and for a kid who has now 4 big league games under his belt, it's been pretty impressive.
But the two things he does: he doesn't throw a ball over the knees, and he also has the ability, you saw yesterday with a couple at bats, throw a 3-2 slider for a strike to get an out.
Again, the 2-2, and Gonzalez pops one up into shallow right. Duda got a better break, but can he get there? He does. So Duda, after letting one fall in front of him, this time got a perfect read on that ball, and that's the second out. Now Eric Hinsky will be the pinch hitter, and Dan Worthen will head to the mound to talk to Igarashi before he pitches to Hinsky. So Hinsky batting for O'Flaherty, and that'll get Venters into the game for the bottom of the 8th.
Well, you pick your poison here, don't you? If you pitch Igarashi against Hinsky, get the righty-lefty matchup, but if you bring in left-handed Burdock, they can counter with Matt Diaz, who's come back from the Pittsburgh Pirates.
And Diaz has been red hot with the Braves since they got him back.
Kills left-handers, doesn't he?
I think he's just happy to get out of Pittsburgh.
First half in Pittsburgh was fun.
It was, not necessarily for Diaz, but
yeah,
it was great for the Pirates. So Igarashi will pitch to Hinsky with 2 out and 2 on. Hinsky just 8 for 44 as a pinch hitter this year, but he does have 2 pinch hit home runs. 2 on and 2 out. And the curveball from Igarashi misses for ball 1. Nid 1.
Pearl 2.
He's all ready for Packers game tonight. Packers Saints tonight. NFL opener. Of course, the real opener doesn't come till Sunday night.
Of course, right. You'll be attending.
Not
that looks more like macrame or something, right?
He's doing a little needlework.
Brutal with arts and crafts.
Very nice. Well, now Igarashi falls behind Hinsky 3-0. A walk would fill the bases with Bourne coming up. And then you'd probably see the lefty in the game. And Hinsky swinging 3-0. Well, we saw Chipper swing 3-0 earlier in the game, and now Hinsky.
I think Douglas swung 3-0 and made an out, too. So that is a theme here with the Braves. Something that Dylan G can pick up if he gets himself in that position.
Actually, he'd prefer never to fall behind.
Of course, of course. But if it happens, I hope it doesn't.
There's a strike with a splitter, and it's 3-2. There are very few easy innings for Ryota Igarashi. He's already thrown 27 pitches. The runners get set to take off. Prado and Hayward, 3-2, 2 out. And after faking that throw to second base, Igarashi needs a conversation.
Well, certain pitchers get a little paranoid sometimes and want to keep changing the signs. Maybe that's where Igarashi wants to go. Although this is a huge pitch, so sometimes you don't even want to give signs. 3-2, 2 outs, runners going. Just get on the same wavelength with your catcher.
Hit 1, Pearl 2. Runners go. 3-2 to Hinsky is low, and that'll load him up. So 2 walks in the inning for Igarashi, and that's going to be the last pitch he throws. And Tim Burdick will come in to face Michael Bourne with the bases full. Five to 4 Atlanta in the 8th. Burdick coming on. We'll be right back. Doesn't it get cold? Tim Burdick has to get 1 key out in the 8th inning.
Well, Burdick's been outstanding all season long. You see his numbers. Usually this is his job, to come in with people on the bags and get that huge, big out. And he'll be hard-pressed here with leadoff hitter Michael Bourne.
Worked a hitless inning in the Mets' 12-inning victory night before last. Bourne is 0 for 4 today. Struck out looking twice, once against Schwinden and once against Herrera. He's grounded out in his other 2 at-bats. And now coming up against Burdick. Bourne 1 for 3 in his career against Burdick. And he takes the slider for a strike.
The thing about Burdick is he works you away. And Bourne's got to know that. And David is playing about just past the bag. But it opens up a little area there on that left side for Bourne, if he chooses to go to that side.
And he fouls off the slider, and now it's 0-2.
See, now with 2 strikes, David can move back a little bit, close up that hole a little bit. Tejada's been faking Hayward back to the bag, but that's his best bet against Burdick.
A show me fastball upstairs, and now it's 1-2 with Chipper Jones on deck. Braves lead at 5-4. They took the lead in the 3rd and have held it ever since. Igarashi giving up a bloop single and a couple of walks here in the 8th, and Burdick trying to bail him out. One-two, up and in. He was fortunate to evade. 2-2. One thing we've seen with Burdick as the year has gone along, he's got a little more life on his fastball. And he comes inside and he hits him, and that forces in a run. Well, he almost hit him with a fastball the previous pitch. He threw a slider that didn't break, and Bourne is hit by the pitch to force in a run.
Well, sometimes after you throw those two high fastballs, you lose that feel for that slider, and just a pitch you can't make in that situation by Tim.
So it's 6-4 Atlanta as Prado comes in to score, and the bases remain loaded for Chipper Jones. Well, Burdick put himself in a position where he had a chance to take care of Bourne up to 0-2 as Constanza comes in to run at second base for Hinsky. Now Chipper fouls back the first pitch, 0-1. Chipper hitting second today for the first time in 15 years, and he celebrated with a double and a tying home run. Hayward at third, Constanza the pinch runner at second, and Bourne at first with 2 out. So the Braves with an insurance run home in the 8th and looking for more.
I always find that Chipper from both sides of the plate is a little different hitter. From the left side, he can cover more in the outside corner. From the right hand side, I think of him more of a middle of the plate in kind of hitter.
1-1 for Burdick, way outside. He's had a couple of pitches get away from him during this sequence to Bourne and Jones. And Chipper goes after the changeup, and it's 2-2.
Good pitch by Burdick on the 2-1 count. A little fadeaway changeup right on the outside corner.
Anthony Varvaro joins Johnny Venters in the bullpen for the Braves. Fastball away and a full count to Chipper.
Varvaro up just in case Atlanta blows this game open.
Look at that. Dead even batting average against lefties and righties for his career. Now the merry-go-round will be in motion. 3-2 to Chipper, and he struck him out with a changeup. Burdick strikes out Chipper Jones to end the inning, but the Braves add a run and lead it 6-4 in the middle of the 8th. Come in to try to protect a 2-run lead in the bottom of the 8th.
Well, he's had an amazing season, but he's given up runs in 3 of his last 5 appearances. So a little more mortal here of late for Johnny Venters.
And that started with his outing against the Mets here in late August in that game that Capuano pitched. Coming up next, game 2 in the doubleheader. Dylan G will pitch for the Mets, and Julio Teheran, rookie right-hander, goes for Atlanta right after game 1, right here on SNY. David Wright leads off the home 8th and takes up and away for ball 1. David's 1 for 3. Hit a flare double down the right field line and scored a run in the first. The Mets got all 4 in the first on one swing of the bat by Jason Bay, who's due up 3rd in the inning. 2 balls and no strikes. Venters had a long scoreless streak that the Mets broke up in Atlanta back in June, and then they got to him again the last time they faced him. So the Mets have a little bit of confidence against this pitcher that other teams might not have.
And they've also done the same thing that has happened here with David Wright. They've had the ability to lay off that sinker off the plate, get in good hitting counts.
3-0 now to David, and he takes high ball 4, and so the Mets have the leadoff man on. And that'll get the tying run to bat against Venters. The last thing that the Braves need is any intimation that Venters and or Kimbrel are tiring coming down the stretch of the season. They were very heavily used early on, and the Braves were cognizant of it, and they tried to back off as best they could during the middle third of the season. But you know, you get into key games down the stretch and head toward October, it's hard to hold back.
So Kimbrel's on his way to pitching in 80 games. Venters on his way to pitching in 85 games. So I don't know how much they've held him back.
Pagan takes high ball 1, so Venters still hasn't thrown a strike. Angel tonight 1 for 2 and a walk. If there's one thing that the Braves will take with them into the postseason that they think they can be confident of, it's their ability to lock down games if they lead after 6. With O'Flaherty and Venters and Kimbrel. If they don't have that, they really don't have much.
Well, they're the kind of team I think going in the postseason which can be dangerous if they can limit the game to 6 innings. If their starting pitcher can beat the other starting pitcher over 6 innings, then they have the advantage again. Tall order, though, when you're facing the likes of Philadelphia. I think you look at Milwaukee. Boy, they got the top 3-line starters themselves.
Dribbled foul, and it's 1-2. By the way, a few weeks ago, we were talking about the Phillies and their postseason rotation, and we were talking about their 4th starter, Oswalt or Worley. Now that Worley's 11-1, is it getting closer?
Well, the hard part, yeah. I mean, the thing about Worley, he is 11-1. He has pitched outstanding, but he's got unbelievable run support also, and Oswalt's tested. Worst you can do, Worley could be your guy out of the bullpen as your long man. That's not a bad thing.
Be your Sid Fernandez.
There you go. Exactly.
Venters ahead 1-2 on Pagan. Johnny Venters was not an overnight success. We mentioned 30th round draft pick. Missed an entire season with Tommy John surgery in 06. It took him 6 years to get to the major leagues, but once he got here last year, he burst on the scene like a comet. And in a season last year, which was rife with Rookie of the Year candidates, from Buster Posey to Jason Hayward to Gabby Sanchez, nobody did their job as a rookie last year better than Johnny Venters.
Just cannot put up, I don't know, tangible numbers for where he pitches.
Now the 2-2, and Pagan pops one up in foul ground. Freeman over for a look, but that's beyond his reach.
Or at least numbers you can hang your hat on, whether it's wins, saves. He always has the ERA and all those other things, but that's what most people, when they vote, tend to look at.
And he had a great helping hand last year with Billy Wagner to serve as his mentor in that Atlanta bullpen.
I think Wagner's confidence in Venters was the biggest thing for him. He said, Billy Wagner thinks I have good stuff? Boy, that's pretty good.
Pagan lifts one to shallow right, and Hayward comes on. One away. Wright still at first, and Jason Bay coming up. Well, I think the National League hitters pretty much told him too.
That's right.
Stuff is pretty good. Well, here's Bay, who delivered the big blow for the Mets back in the first inning, his second grand slam of the season and the fourth of his career. Since then, he's flying to center and taking a called third strike. 1 for 3 on the day. Bobby Parnell getting ready in the Mets bullpen. Made the tying run at the plate in a 6-4 game.
Well, that hanging curveball from tonight's starter Mike Minor. You know, he threw him in that at bat. He let him off with a curveball, came back with it. That just wasn't his best.
And Bay lines a base hit. Right to second. He'll take the turn and go on to third. And the Mets have the tying runs on base. But Jason Bay starting to heat up, his second hit of the night. And the Mets have first and third and 1 out.
Well, a ball that didn't sink out over the middle of the plate. Well, I'll tell you though, that was on the corner, and for Jason to hit that ball that's on the outside corner and pull it, that's something that he was swinging and missing at earlier in the season.
And that's something he did with regularity in Pittsburgh and Boston. And when he and Dave Hudgens have been looking at the film of him, the tape of him from his Pirates and Red Sox days, that's one of the things they identified, that he's not an all-field hitter. He's a guy who goes up there looking to pull the ball, and that's what he's been doing. Now Nick Evans, and he tries to lay off that sinker, but he went around. Nick is 1 for 3 tonight, singled back in the fourth. The Mets now have 9 hits. Wright at third, Bay at first with 1 out. And it gets away, but not far enough for the runners to move. I'm surprised Bay didn't try to go to second.
Yeah, I think he missed that play because there's no way that McCann can throw to second base on this ball, because once he gets away from him, his only concern, and what a nice job blocking the ball, by the way, his only concern has to be with Wright at third base.
Bay is carrying that tying run at first base. That's a huge run. It could have been in scoring position. And Evans again can't stop the swing. Oh, he did. A little bit of a break there from Alan Porter, the first base umpire, and it's 2-1. Greg Kimbrell, the Braves closer, up in the 8th inning. As Venters has a little bit of a struggle, and Freddie Gonzalez can't believe that Porter called that a ball.
That was a good call in the Mets' favor there. Missed that one.
Evans lifts it out to right. It's deep. Back goes Hayward to the track. Back in the Mo zone, he makes the catch. Wright can walk on in. Bay has to hustle to get back to first, and he just makes it safely. And if he had been out, I'm not sure whether the run would have scored or not. It would have been very close as to whether Wright would have crossed the plate before Bay would have been doubled up at first base. But it becomes a moot point because Bay was safe.
Well, nice job by Nick Evans. See David here not running hard and then steps on. You know, he really didn't run hard the whole way.
He would not have been safe. That run would not have counted if Bay would have been out at first. But it's a sacrifice fly for Evans, who hit that ball very well to the opposite field.
Great job by Evans after looking kind of silly on a couple pitches from Venters. Makes up for it with a nice drive to right center field. And I think that Bay didn't realize the great arm of Hayward and just got in there.
And watching that replay, certainly Wright would not have scored. So 2 out of the inning, but the Mets have scored against Venters again. And how huge now is that extra run that the Braves got at the top of the inning when Igarashi walked a pair and then Burdick hit Bourne with the bases loaded. So here's Polino with the tying run at first and 2 out. Ronnie is 0 for 3. Flied out, grounded into a double play, and popped up to second. First pitch slider from Venters, 0-1.
Very interesting with Venters tonight, the guy who has probably the best sinker ball out of the bullpen from the left side of anyone in baseball. His slider is his best pitch tonight, not the fastball.
Little flare, probably foul, untouched. 0-2 to Polino. Greg Kimbrell, Anthony Favaro up in the bullpen. Jose Reyes has come out on deck to be a pinch hitter. Reyes sitting in the first game, playing in the second game, but on deck to pinch hit if Polino can keep this inning going. Venters ahead 0-2. The Mets just are not biting on those sinkers out of the strike zone. Polino 0 for 3 against Venters. There goes Bay, but it's a swing and a miss, and Polino is done on strikes to end the inning. A leadoff walk to right. He comes around to score on the sac fly by Evans to get the Mets back within a run after 8. Game live immediately follows our game here between games of the doubleheader. Chris Carl and Bobby Ojeda will be along. And then game 2 right after. Ryan McCann, first pitch swinging, hits one deep to right, but Duda has room on the warning track. One pitch and one long out in the top of the 9th. So Burdack left in to face McCann, and now Terry Collins on his way out, and he's going to make a change. You got Uggla coming up, and then you got another left-hand hitter, Freeman, behind him. But Terry's going to make the move here and get the right-hander in to face Uggla. So Parnell will enter. 6-5 Atlanta in the 9th. We'll be right back. Match in bat ninth, and Bobby Parnell, first outing since his blown save Tuesday night, will pitch and hit eighth.
It'll be interesting to see how Bobby Parnell reacts off, well, not the demotion, but pitching in this circumstance, not in the save circumstance. It'll be interesting to see how he reacts and does some things a little different, or tries to.
Dan Uggla 0 for 4, and Parnell misses low for ball one. Parnell was robbed of a hit on a fine play by David Wright back in the first. Since then, he's struck out, grounded out, and flied out. And he hits one sharply right past Parnell for a base hit. You know, Bobby's given up a lot of hits for a guy who throws 100 miles an hour, and they never seem to be cheap. He gives up a lot of well-struck balls. How is it that hitters are so able to square up a ball against a guy who throws as hard?
Well, I think for you people at home, you fall in love with those numbers, 99 and 100. It means nothing to these players when they only have to hit off a half of the plate, middle of the plate away, whether you're lefty or righty, and the ball is incredibly straight. Those two things, there's a little slider. It's a better pitch to Freeman. Those two things work against Bobby. His ball is very, very straight for the velocity that it is, and he also doesn't pitch in. So they only have half the plate to cover.
Freddie Freeman 3 for 4. The only time he was retired. Last time up, robbed of a hit on a great diving catch by Evans at first base. So he's not likely to develop movement on his fastball. So is it all about just pitching inside?
It's the ability to pitch to both sides of the plate, commanding his fastball to set up his slider. There's a little breaking ball there, that split finger that we never see him use. If anything else, even if it's not breaking a lot, it changes the whole speed pattern for these hitters. Not when you face Bobby Parnell, if you're a hitter, you're saying everything's hard. Everything's the same speed.
Well, we've seen him use a two-seamer, which does have more movement. What's to prevent him from using that more?
Well, because maybe that doesn't rock the radar guns. I think even you fall in love with throwing the ball hard. That doesn't work here in the major leagues. Have to hit corners, have to change speeds, and you have to have movement.
Snead struck him out with a fastball. So Freeman is down for the second out.
Now, he doesn't get away with that fastball if he didn't have the slider in. He threw the fork ball, he threw the running fastball away, and now goes up the ladder. That sequence of pitches works.
So 2 out. Uggla still at first, and now Martin Prado, who's 3 for 4 today. It's not exactly an overwhelming 3 for 4. He had an infield hit behind the bag at second that drove in a run in the first. He blooped a single to left in the third, and he blooped a single to right that Duda misjudged in the eighth. And he came in to score the insurance run for Atlanta, and that proved to be huge when the Mets got a run in the bottom of the eighth. Well, second game of the doubleheader in D.C. says postponed, but I imagine they'll probably not make that game up. That would be a C rather than a P. Canceled. Don't think it'll have any impact on the races.
No. The only thing it could have an impact on is that Mr. Kemp is having a magical season, so one game taken away.
Maybe Clayton Kershaw.
There you go.
Gets denied a start. Trying for the Cy Young. Over the head of Prado, and down to second base goes Uggla. 97 over your head is a scary prospect. Wild pitch moves Uggla to second.
I would argue that's not the worst thing that happened to Bobby Parnell. Now, you never want to throw at anyone's head. He wasn't trying to throw. He was just trying to throw something up so you would have a swing and a miss. But a meanness, an intensity out there would not hurt him. A little emotion.
Out at the plate. Well, it's an interesting comparison in that of late the most effective relief pitcher the Mets have had has been Manny Acosta. who for most of his career has been a very placid figure on the mound, and only lately has begun showing a little emotion.
He is a no emotion when he's off the field too, but he's been a caged tiger lately, and the numbers show it.
Bounce to third. David Wright handles it and throws out Pronto to end the inning. So Parnell gives up a hit, gets the next two, and now the Mets, down by a run, will come up in the bottom of the ninth, trying to rally. Brought to you by IOTV. Get the best in HD free with IOTV. By AT&T, rethink possible. By Toyota. By Geico. And by Verizon Fios. Switch to Fios and network ahead. To learn more, visit verizon.com/getFios. Craig Kimbrell and his extraordinary scoreless inning streak will pitch the ninth inning. Jose Reyes to pinch hit. And the first pitch by Kimbrell misses badly for ball one.
Well, just trying to add on to his rookie record last year, Neftali Feliz with 40 saves. 42 out of 47 for Kimbrell has been outstanding. Striking out about 42% of the batters he faces.
He last allowed a run on June 14th, nearly 3 months ago. 36 appearances, 36 2/3 innings since then, no runs allowed. And in that span, he has 24 consecutive saves. He's behind on Reyes 2-0. Jose, leading the National League in batting, takes a strike. Jose began the night with a 3-point lead over Ryan Braun, hitting at .335. Ruben Tejada on deck, and then Justin Turner here in the last of the ninth. And Reyes slashes one foul, 2-2. Since Oral Hershiser set the record with 59 consecutive scoreless innings in 1988, there have been 4 pitchers who've posted scoreless inning streaks in one season as long as Kimbrell's streak right now. Brandon Webb went 42 innings in 2007. As Reyes hits it through the hole for a base hit. And so the Mets have life in the last of the ninth. Reyes with a pinch hit single to get him started.
Nice hitting by Jose, not trying to do too much. That ball up in the strike zone, just strokes it to the left side. Awful nice hitting. That ball 96 miles an hour. Went out about 98.
10-game hitting streak now for Reyes. So you had Webb 42 innings, Greg Maddux 39 in the third, Kenny Rogers 39, and Brad Ziegler, the fine relief pitcher who was working with the A's at the time in 08, had 39 innings. And Kimbrell right now at 36 2/3, and the Mets trying to break that up, and we'll see if they try and do it with a bunt or a steal.
It's interesting to watch Kimbrel on the mound. See the defense, double play depth up the middle.
Kimbrel hasn't had a lot of base traffic to deal with as Tejada bailing out fouls off that bunt. In this streak of 36 appearances, he's only allowed 14 hits and 9 walks. Making 15 hits now.
Ball running in on Tejada. You show me a guy that's hard to hit. Of course, he's going to be hard to bunt. See that form of Kimbrel taking the sign. You don't know if he's going to pitch to you or attack you. Maybe he's a little of both.
Body language. Breaking ball low, a ball and a strike. Now, what is it that's made Kimbrel this good?
Well, I mean, he does throw 95, 96 miles an hour, but he has tons of movement, and it's the kind of movement you never know. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it runs up in your face if you're a right-handed hitter, and he's had the ability all year. He has a go-to-sleep pitch. That slider, when he throws it right, cannot be hit.
Just 22 years old, and almost certainly going to be the National League Rookie of the Year. 1-1 to Tejada, trying to get that bunt down. Reyes with 35 steals on the year. There has not been a single stolen base against Kimbrel this year. Only 3 have tried. Tejada pops up the bunt attempt foul. New York Community Bank save leaders. Kimbrel, as Ronnie mentioned, has set the rookie record with 42.
Axford has had a nice year for Milwaukee, hasn't he?
And J.J. Putz has been part of that Arizona bullpen that has helped them to a 7-game lead. Nice to see for a really good guy who never really got a chance here because he was hurt. Now the 1-2 to Tejada, and he slashes one just over the Mets dugout.
You know, that number you said, Gary, was very intriguing. Only 3 stolen bases against a rookie reliever. That's usually the last thing that comes, is their ability to hold on runners late in a game.
Reyes has made no move toward running. Of course, he has not been doing much running since coming back from the hamstring injury. And Tejada tries to stop the swing, and he went around.
That's a makeup call right there.
Well, Porter did not call a strike on Evans when he clearly went earlier in the game, but this time rings up Tejada, who looked like he stopped.
And he got a lot of heat from it from the Atlanta bench. And only Alan Porter knows if that's what it was in his mind with this call, but I don't think Tejada went. Well, you know what? I could be wrong.
Maybe he did.
I give him credit. It was further than I thought.
A really good slider by Kimbrel for the first out. So now Justin Turner is 2 for 4 today. A pair of infield hits. And Turner lays off the slider for ball 1.
You know, every good closer I've seen, they all have different kinds of ways of being intimidating, Gary. And when you look at Kimbrel, just from him taking the sign, there's a power, there's an intensity. You don't know exactly what it is, but it's there, you know?
Well, you got the glare of a Goose Gossage, that arm wag of a Rod Beck, whatever it is. The cocksure manner of a John Franco.
There you go.
You know, they all count for something, and you know, you can discount those things if you want, but they work.
Some have grown full facial hair, but I'm sure that Kimbrel can't yet. He's got a little on his chin. That's about it.
Turner lines one to center. Will it stay up for Bourne? He grabs it. Now Turner hit a bullet, and the Gold Glover Bourne stayed with it for the second out. Big hang with him there for Turner.
What an at bat. Got the count to his favor. Knew he was going to get a fastball and hit it right on the nose.
Well, the Mets were able to scratch against Venters in the 8th. They've had some good at bats against Kimbrel here in the 9th, but now they're down to their final out with Lucas Duda coming up. Duda a single and a double today, 2 for 4. By the way, for reference, Kimbrel has given up 1 home run this year. Reyes the tying run at first. He had a leadoff hit, but he hasn't moved. And Duda fouls one at the plate, and now the Mets are down to their final strike. Now the 0-2. In there for a call, strike 3, and the ball game is over. Kimbrel with his second strikeout of the inning gets Duda looking, and the Braves hang on for a 1-run win in Game 1 of the doubleheader to stretch their wild card lead to 7 games over St. Louis.
Well, the O'Flaherty, the Venters to Kimbrel trio works again. 2 sliders in and then a backdoor slider. Unhittable on the corner. Dreckman with the good call, and nothing for Duda to do but stand looking. Perfect pitch.
So the Braves, scoring 5 runs in the first 3 innings, get an insurance run in the 8th, and that helps them win. Chipper Jones with a home run that tied up the game, and the bullpen for Atlanta saves the day again. The nearly 3-month scoreless streak for Craig Kimbrel continues as the Mets lose for just the 4th time in their